Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto was a lazy Pokemon master. Before I start, please support for more amazing content and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by KENCHI 618, link in description and support writer. Let's start the video. Chapter 1. A special S-rank mission. What do you mean you aren't going? A tall man with long, spiky white hair shouted indignantly. He had a green kimono shirt on and green pants, and over the shirt was an open red vest. Red-line facial markings sat underneath his eyes going directly down, and he was thoroughly fired up from his current actions of lifting a young blonde boy in an orange jumpsuit with blue trim on the shoulders up by his collar. "I have to get you ready, Naruto. I've already told you what's coming in 3 years." Said blonde boy. Naruto had a scowl on his face, with 3 whisker marks sitting on each cheek. His spiky blonde hair was held out of his face by way of a blue headband with a metal leaf insignia inscribed plate, and as previously mentioned he wore a thick orange jumpsuit with a white collar and with blue on the front and back of the shoulders that had a pink whirlpool design on the centered back. "I can't just leave Iro-senin. I can train here, right? Your buddy Sasuke won't be staying in just one place with Orochimaru. Jiraiya or Iro-senin tried to argue back. Seriously, this kid was just one big headache after another. He'll be moving from base to base all over every bit of a Togeker that there is while he's being trained. This is just what you do." "What, who does?" "I don't know, but the point is, you're coming with me, and if you don't Tsunade'll make you." And with that, both of them looked at the third person in the office, sitting behind her desk with a look of amused interest in her brown eyes. She had long blonde hair and 2 pigtails down her back, pink lipstick, and a small diamond marking on her forehead, with an appearance that was far younger than her actual age. She wore a grey kimono blouse underneath an open green jacket that covered up her rather sizable assets on her chest, but still left enough visible for anyone to see. "You're actually asking me to make him leave Jiraiya? What's the matter, you old goat? You can't even convince your own apprentice to train with you." "Oh, I'll train," Naruto replied before pointing down at the ground. "I'll train right here in Konoha. How am I supposed to become Hokage without even being here?" He then held the back of his head as Jiraiya had just struck him. "Ow. What the hell? You idiot." Jiraiya then pointed right at Tsunade to illustrate a point. "What do you think she's been doing for the last damn decade before we went to go and get her back a few months ago?" Tsunade waved at him for added emphasis. "We're only going to be gone for a few years to whip your low-class genin ass into shape." "I'm still not going," Naruto said stubbornly, turning away from Jiraiya with his arms crossed. And at this point it was starting to piss Tsunade off a bit too, as she got up and walked towards him with a look of intent on her face. Naruto figured he saw the face of the devil when he saw Tsunade's hand make the motion for a finger flick and opened his mouth to comment before. It was purely done for Naruto's own well-being, but watching Naruto fly through the doors of the office at such a speed almost made Jiraiya panic until he realized that Tsunade would never really hurt the brat. Whoa. That'll put him out cold for a few hours. It won't make him want to go any more than before when he wakes up though. "Shizune." Tsunade shouted for her assistant, watching as just outside the office a woman with short dark hair, wearing a black kimono, looked down at the knocked out Naruto and up at Tsunade before shaking her head and picking the young ninja up to take him somewhere comfortable to wake up at later. With that being taken care of, Tsunade turned her attention back to Jiraiya. "I can't make him go to train. It's not really a mission to send him on a training trip." A nod came from Jiraiya until the proverbial light bulb went off in his head. "Oh Tsunade, I've got a little something for this. Just go with this and it'll work perfectly." 4 days later, Tsunade's office. "A mission?" Naruto said questioningly as he stood in front of Tsunade again, this time giving her a very wide berth of space. "Wait, I thought you wanted to send me on a training trip with Iro-senin. Why are you sticking me with this mission right now?" Goodness, if this story was bought then Jiraiya was something of a genius. That was what Tsunade figured at least. With that mindset she launched into her and Jiraiya's worked out explanation of how this would work. "Well Naruto. Like I said, we're going to be sending you to a foreign land to gather intelligence and if possible study the wildlife. It's for the most part an uncharted area that we don't have much info on." Uncharted? It seemed rather unbelievable to Naruto. How could anywhere in the world be uncharted? But then again, there were more important things going on than trying to explore things that had no bearing on shinobi life in the elemental nations. But still, if people lived in places like Yuki no Kuni then what the hell was any kind of excuse other than somewhere being inhospitable? A shrug came from Tsunade. It was discovered right before the outbreak of the Third Shinobi World War, but there was never any follow-up due to the war, the recovery afterwards, the entire Kyuubi debacle, trying to avert a war with Kumagakure. There were a bunch of reasons. But from the first trip a report came that there were many strange animals with high combat capabilities in this place. "We want to see just what this place has to offer, so we're sending you to recover intel and study the land's ecology." That sounded damnably cool in Naruto's opinion. So he'd be a pioneer of sorts. He could just see his name being placed in history books. Yeah, then some other kids would have to remember useless facts about him and what he did for once, instead of the other way around. Finally, justice. And from there, Tsunade only sweetened the whole thing as far as he went, it's very, very far away. But the people there speak our language, and with the distance you'll be traveling alone, I can qualify this as an S-rank mission for you. It's pretty important potentially to Konoha and Hai no Kuni in general's economy. There could be a big boon if things work out well here. No genin he knew of had an S-rank mission to their record. And all he had to do was go to some cool new place that already had people and explore it and its creatures a bit. It was a no-brainer. This was the kind of stuff that legends were made of. Tsunade-bachan, I'll have that place all mapped out for you twice over in no time. Naruto said with full confidence, a grin stretching across his face to convey his excitement. There won't be anything you won't know about this place, I can guarantee you that. Tsunade raised an eyebrow, holding up a scroll with Naruto's exact mission specs more likely within it, so you accept the mission. It wasn't even worth asking, as Naruto couldn't have grabbed the scroll from her fast enough, thoughts of glory dancing through his head. Maybe if he did something groundbreaking they'd make him Hokage the second he came back. No, that was a child's fantasy, they'd just put him in line to take over when Tsunade stepped down for sure. No doubt in his mind. But the speed he took the mission scroll, Tsunade shook her head at the boy, I'll take that as a yes. Naruto nodded rapidly and made to open the scroll until Tsunade loudly cleared her throat, don't open that here. The blonde boy stopped and stared at her confusedly, forcing her to explain, this is an S-rank mission. Top secret. You really shouldn't even be getting a scroll in the first place, but you're just a genin, and word of mouth isn't that reliable for you. Don't open that until you're on the ship to leave or until you arrive at your location. Oh, of course. That made sense. S-rank missions were super important and exact specifics of them were clandestine by nature. Kakashi had told him and the rest of Team 7 that each one of his that he had undertaken in the past were need to know only for those that absolutely needed to know. He couldn't even tell them about any of the missions since they weren't relevant to their survival. I won't let you down, Tsunade-bachan. Naruto said with conviction in his voice and determination in his eyes, you can definitely count on me for this. But why did you choose me in the first place? Why not someone else? It's very simple when you think about it, Naruto. Tsunade said with a smile on her face as she decided to explain her reasoning, you have a summoning contract with the Toads, and you've got a good rapport with the boss Gamabunta. Summons are rare, and you're one of the few in the village with experience when it comes to dealing with how should I say, difficult creatures. You're also pretty good at establishing relationships with people that are willing to give you a chance. Both of those things are going to be very important for this. So she was basically telling Naruto, in his own mind of course, that he was the man and that he was the only one appropriate for this incredible mission. Oh, he knew Tsunade loved him and recognized his special set of skills. All the yelling and arguments had to be her way of testing his mettle all of that time. Kami, he loved that old lady her and her ever-present transformation that made her look young. This is going to be so cool. Naruto shouted, jumping and pumping a fist into the air, alright, I'm gonna start packing right now. He told Tsunade before turning to run out of the office and the building altogether. Tsunade looked after him with a smile as he disappeared from her sight, good luck Brad. I'll leave Jiraiya to deal with the fallout later since this was his stupid idea in the first place. A few days later poured on the shores of Hai no Kuni. 3 days of preparation for his trip and 2 days of traveling across the country by his lonesome led Naruto to a ship in the harbor that had been requested to take Naruto with them on their voyage to this new place. Apparently they wanted to set out to make their own bit of fortune trading goods as well. And Konoha was footing the bill for taking Naruto across the ocean as well, so the crew and captain gladly took the boy on board. This is kind of exciting. Naruto said to himself, leaning over the side of the ship with a huge grin on his face as the horns of the ship went off, signifying their departure. I've never been on a ship by myself before. He then started chuckling, I can't wait to get there. I wonder what it's like. Nobody in Konoha's gonna know but me though. And me too. Hearing the familiar voice that came from directly behind him, Naruto almost fell over the edge of the ship but was caught by the back of his trousers and hauled back on deck. Naruto turned towards his savior and pointed accusingly at him, Iro-senin. What are you doing here? Ignoring Naruto's fully extended arm and index finger, Jiraiya lowered the boy's hand and gave him a deadpan look. You thought that Tsunade was just going to stick you on a boat and send you off to a place you don't know the first thing about by yourself. An indignant snort came from Naruto who took offense to that question. Hey, I'm a survivor, Iro-senin. I'm tough. As long as these weird animal things that Tsunade-bachan wants me to check out aren't as big as Gorishukaku, I'll be alright. Couldn't tell you if they were or not, to be honest with you. Jiraiya said, rubbing his chin. The report was from before you were ever even born, back during the last war. A nod came from Naruto, having heard the story already from Tsunade. You see, we sent out a few ships towards Mizu no Kuni to look for allies like Kuritaker to help us in the war against Iwagakure. The war wasn't going so hot at the time, and we were in the shop for friends like no one's business. Well, a nasty storm hit that lasted for 40 days straight. Naruto gulped at hearing that. 40 days. How did ships survive on the waters for more than a month in horrible conditions like that? Even for a dummy like Naruto, it didn't seem possible. He had been on a ship that had been hit with a storm for just one day in the past during a mission. It was one of the most miserable experiences of his life. That sounds horrible, Iro-senin. What happened? Jiraiya lifted 2 fingers and continued his story. 2 of the 4 ships dispatched went down in the storm, but 2 made it through. Apparently they followed a very large, very strange silver bird that seemed to be flying through the squall with no problems at all, but eventually they lost it and just kept going in that direction as they had no compass by this point, having lost it in the storm. It took 2 more weeks and a near mutiny, but eventually they made it to land on familiar land. Wow, by this point, Naruto was sitting on the deck paying rapt attention and unknowingly feeding Jiraiya's ego as a master orator and storyteller by his interest in the tale from the past. So what happened then? Jiraiya paused to draw out the tension of his tale before grinning and divulging the rest of the story. They restocked and went home. Naruto's reaction of falling backwards hard on the deck prompted Jiraiya to burst out in laughter. Yeah, apparently the people there had never heard of Konohagakure, any kind of war, or even the elemental nations in general. So while they amassed the money and that currency to restock on everything, there was quite a little bit of exploring done by one person more than others, and apparently the animals that Tsunade's sending you to gather info on were revealed. Minato wouldn't shut up about it when he got back. Kushina had to hit him to make his stop. Minato? Naruto said questioningly with a curious tilt of his head. Who's that supposed to be? Fighting the urge to palm his face, Jiraiya poked Naruto on the top of the head thrice. The Yondaime Hokage kid. Naruto's eyes went wide and Jiraiya grinned. Yep, the last guy from Konoha or even High no Kuni in general to go all the way out to where we're going just so happened to be your favorite Hokage. What a mind blower. So he was literally walking in the footsteps of his hero. That was so absurdly awesome, he couldn't wait to brag back to his friends in Konoha about what he was doing. Yeah, did I die when Tsunade Bachin flicked me through that door last week because this mission is totally heaven sent. The kid liked what he was hearing so far and that warmed Jiraiya's heart. That Naruto was so fired up to be doing something associated with the Yondaime Hokage. So Jiraiya figured to keep stoking the flame. This was back before he took the seat though, obviously. And he couldn't write a report for shit. He had all of those stories in his head, but he wasn't exactly the best at expressing them or writing them out. No one knew what the hell he was talking about. I guess eloquent communication couldn't be passed down from teacher to pupil, eh? So wait. Why are these guys going then? Naruto asked, looking around at the ship full of sailors that were busy making sure the early stages of the voyage went smoothly. Can't they trade in the elemental nations easier than this? One of the younger sailors with short brown hair wearing a bandana on his head heard Naruto and let out a small laugh. Yeah, we probably could. But it's kind of supposed to be safer too because of the lack of pirates and shinobi villages and everything. The captain's done this trip 4 times over the last 15 years and he loves the place. I think he'd live there if there wasn't so much interest back home and goods from this new place. I've never been, but I've heard about it and I'm really excited myself. Only 4 times in 15 years? Really? That didn't sound right. Well, is this place really that hard to find? Nah. The young sailor said, pointing towards the front of the ship. Just head east, east, east. That's what the captain says. All the way east. He said, drawing out the L's. It's kind of easy, it's just really far and there's no place to restock or rest until we get there. Something in the back of Naruto's mind was just prodding at him to ask the most obvious question present. Now when you say far, Naruto started to say, furrowing his brow in though, exactly how far do you mean? What exactly is far when you're talking about this place? Let's see, the sailor said, tapping his chin in thought as he seemed to be doing math in his head. If we're blessed with good weather and fair winds going our way, we should get there in 60 days give or take. Oh. Naruto said, nodding in understanding before it took a bit for what was just said to sink in fully. Wait, what? 60 days? That's like 2 months. If we're lucky. The sailor said cheerfully before returning to his work on the deck, leaving Naruto with a quite bewildered and gobsmacked look on his face that Jiraiya wished he had a camera for. 2 months, Naruto said in a haunted voice before turning to look desperately over the serenely moving waves. Oh man, what am I going to do for 2 whole months on a freaking ship? This sucks. Ahem. Clearing his throat, Jiraiya made his presence felt once again to speak up. Even though you technically could do it now that we're at sea, I think you should wait until we land to open and read your mission scroll from Tsunade. You have to burn S-rank mission orders and commit them to memory immediately after reading them for privacy purposes. Do you really think you're going to remember your exact orders for 2 months of looking at nothing but water? Naruto grimaced at the thought and shook his head, good point. I'm not risking that mess, Dadabeo. Clapping his hands once in a positive manner, Jiraiya then placed an arm around Naruto's shoulder. I think I should bring up the fact that now would be a perfect time for me to get cracking on whipping your scrawny ass into shape. Agreed. A grin threatened to split Naruto's face as Jiraiya ruffled his hair. Now since there are no women here, this is all about you, and no one else, but you has my full attention. I want you to give me 100%. You've got it, Iro-senin. Also, do not destroy parts of the ship. You've got it, Iro-senin. I will also require periodic viewings of your Warwick no Jutsu, Sexy Jutsu, and monthly viewings of your Haremu no Jutsu, Harem Jutsu. Not a chance in hell. I flew too close to the sun and got burned. 2.5 months later. It got hot while out at sea. Warmer than Naruto had even been used to in the usually very nice temperature that always existed in Hai no Kuni. Out there he couldn't wear his jacket anymore because it was so thick. He had to switch to his lighter clothes to cool down. Also the fact that Jiraiya had almost destroyed his favorite jacket contributed to his change. He still wore his blue shinobi sandals and his Konoha headband, but now he wore orange shorts instead of his trousers, kunai pouch still attached to his right thigh. He wore an orange sleeveless zip-up vest with a high collar, and underneath that he had on a blue short-sleeved shirt in addition to the white tape he wore around his wrists. Taking a break from his training, Naruto had climbed up one of the masts to get a good view of his surroundings, sticking to it just underneath the crow's nest with one hand and one foot as he had momentarily borrowed a pair of binoculars from the person in the crow's nest to get a good look around. The young blonde let out a loud yawn when he spotted something on the horizon. Oh hey. Yo Hero. Do you see that? The bandana-wearing sailor that Naruto had met on his first day aboard rolled his eyes and shook his head amusedly at his younger shinobi friend. Well, seeing as how you just now spotted whatever it is you're seeing and you have my binoculars, I'll wager a guess that it's way too far for me to see without them, so no, I can't see anything. Smartest, Naruto muttered before throwing the binoculars back up to Haruo. Here, check it out. Am I seeing things again or what? Patching his seeing device back, Haruo placed them to his eyes and looked through them, grinning when he located what Naruto had thought he had seen. For once, little Spike, you aren't losing your shit. He said, leaning over and giving Naruto a good-natured ruffle of his hair that got Naruto to growl at him. Haruo chuckled before cupping his hands to his mouth to shout to everyone else on the ship, land ho. Land ho. Straight ahead. With a grin on his face, Naruto skillfully slid and jumped down the mast, finally swinging his way down on a rope pirate style before landing on the deck and taking off to find Jiraiya, who was probably inside. Naruto ducked and dodged out of the way of the sailors, making it inside and reaching the crew's barracks, where he and Naruto were granted a bunk to stay. It didn't take him long to reach the large white-haired man who was laying in bed fully clothed but looking under the weather for whatever reason. Iro-senin. Naruto said, the 12-year-old shaking Jiraiya to get his attention. Come on, get your lazy old butt up. Up and at 'em, let's go already. Is that you, Naruto? Jiraiya said, rolling over in his bed to face Naruto with squinted eyes, smiling weakly once he got sight of him. Hey kid, sorry, but I don't think old Jiraiya's going to be with you too much longer. Why did he look so out of it? He didn't understand, he had just seen Jiraiya that morning and he had been doing just fine. What are you talking about, Iro-senin? Stop messing around and get up already. Just get up. Naruto shook Jiraiya again, a bit of fear creeping into his voice. It's no good, kid. My time, it's too late. What are you talking about? Tell me already. If there's something you need, we can get it. What do you need? I need. Yeah? I need. Come on and say it already. You're not dying on me, you quitter. Jiraiya shut his eyes fully, looking serene and near a peaceful death, before his eyes snapped open and a lecherous look overtook his features. I need a lady. A fine one. A total knockout. I'm talking a perfect 10 here, Brad. He shouted, jumping to his feet and scaring the hell out of Naruto with his speed. 2 months and some change, are you kidding me? A man like the insatiable sexy Jiraiya hasn't gone 2 months without contact with the most luscious of the fairer sex since he first found his passion in life. I'm going through withdrawal. If I don't see the finest of ladies and soon I'm gonna pop. I'll die of blue balls, kid. I will murder you. Naruto yelled, jumping up and beginning to throttle Jiraiya with his bare hands. All of that dramatic my time is up crap because you haven't gotten your rocks off in 2 months. Damn you to the depths of hell, old man. I came down here to tell you that we're almost at land. Land? Jiraiya said, completely ignoring the fact that Naruto was choking him as if it wasn't even happening despite Naruto's best efforts to cut off his supply of oxygen. Land means beaches, beaches means swimsuits, swimsuits means bikinis, bikinis means women. He couldn't have grabbed Naruto by the back of his collar fast enough as he threw him away and grabbed his telescope from inside his vest. "I'm coming, ladies. These eyes will appreciate your lovely sights and then some." He then disappeared onto the deck by way of a shunshin. Naruto pulled himself off of the bed that he had been thrown onto and held his head. Damn pervert. Naruto stepped off of the ship alongside Jiraiya after they had made port. Naruto had to keep a hold on the man like he was a dog on a leash to keep him from ditching Naruto for the nearest pair of boobs in a swimsuit that walked by them. "Where the hell are we?" the young blonde asked, looking around. If this was the place he was meant to explore, it was awfully small, wasn't it? It was just an island. The place was a total beach resort town. Lots of places for tourists to spend money, but Naruto's money from the elemental nations was no good there, centered entirely around the seaside where the prettiest views were, the best hotels, the best stores, everything. But at the middle of the island there was a volcano. What, were these people completely nuts to live that close to an active volcano? What was wrong with them? That was just entirely unsafe all around. Sick of wandering around not knowing what was what, Naruto sighed and finally decided to suck up his pride and ask for some kind of help. The closest person he could find was a rather pretty lady wearing a bikini top and a long skirt around her waist with sandals on her feet. "Excuse me, miss," Naruto said, tapping her on the back to get her attention as she was talking to other women. "Could I ask you some questions really quick?" Turning around to face him, the lady looked down and gave Naruto a smile, as did the others she had been speaking with. Meanwhile, Jiraiya had gotten out of their field of vision and happened to be jotting things down in his notebook. Either that or he was doodling what he thought they looked like with their skirts off. "Well, yes, sweetie, I can try. What do you need?" "Oh, well, that was easy. In the elemental nations no one really liked being talked to by a stranger, especially by him, so this was a very welcome change." Naruto returned her smile tenfold and spoke up. "Well, I was just wondering where I am. See, me and my sensei came here on a ship from a place really far away called the elemental nations, but nobody ever told me what this town was called or even what this country was called." I've never heard of any elemental nations," the woman said, getting equally befuddled shrugs from her companions. "Well, I can answer your questions though. Right now you're on Saber Island. It's a part of the country of Kanto." "Kanto and Saber Island," Naruto said, testing the sound of the places in his mouth before nodding and committing them to memory. "Okay, cool. Thanks a lot, Onisan, that helped a lot. Now maybe I can start my mission." He waved goodbye to the women and turned on his heels to run off and explore the place a bit. The ladies all waved back at him as he got further and further away. "That little kid was so cute." One of the women gushed once Naruto was out of sight. "I know, I just wanted to pet those marks on his cheeks, just like whiskers." At this point Jiraiya made his presence known, seeing an opening present that a blind man couldn't have missed. "I'd like to thank you ladies for helping out my beloved student the way you did," he said smoothly before placing a hand over his heart. "He and I are foreigners, visiting this land for the first time. Honestly, from the bottom of my heart I'd like to thank you for being so kind to him." "It was no problem," one of the girls said brightly, letting Jiraiya put an arm around her shoulder. "He was the cutest thing I've ever seen. My friend's Jigglypuff didn't have anything on him at all." In response, one of the women puffed her cheeks out indignantly. Meanwhile, Jiraiya's brain took a second to focus on something else. Jigglypuff? What in the world? Then he realized that these women were comfortable with his being there and Naruto had left him alone. Finally, "Oh, that can wait until later, there are more important things to worry about at the moment. Ladies. I'm sorry, I never introduced myself. My student, the one you just spoke to, his name is Uzumaki Naruto." Oh, they all said at once, remembering the orange-clad preteen they had just met barely even 3 minutes ago. "Even his name is cute." Yes, but then there's me," Jiraiya said, thanking the heavens that Naruto could leave an impression. "And now it was time for the knockout. You girls are never going to forget this one," he thought to himself before breaking out into a spontaneous one-legged hopping dance on one leg. "Even the entire ocean's width and depth cannot contain my might. No horizon is too far for these experienced eyes to see the end of." By now he had not only the full attention of the awe-stricken women, he had the attention of multiple passers-by as well. All that was left was the finish. Jiraiya bit his thumb to draw blood and made his hand seals that were instinctual at this point. From the land of the elements he has come to share his greatness abroad. "This is the Grand Toad Sage, Jiraiya, at your service." He finished with a flourish, slamming his palm onto the ground. But nothing happened. After a second, Jiraiya lifted his hand off of the ground and stared at it. "What the?" He repeated the final process and slammed his palm on the ground again. "Kuchiyus no Jutsu, summoning jutsu." Again, nothing. "Oh, this could potentially be really bad." "What do you think he's doing?" "I don't know. He said he was foreign, so maybe it's some kind of native greeting dance." "Well, it's nice to meet you too, Jiraiya." Well, it didn't work the way he had hoped, but the women still found him interesting. Too bad for once Jiraiya's mind was not on the women, but on his totally failed attempt at summoning a toad. Oh, this is bad, this is bad, this is bad. Nothing short of a topless beach could get his mind off of this little dilemma. With Naruto elsewhere on Saber Island. Naruto grunted, walking around and scratching his head. Crap, I'm totally lost. And I lost Hiro Sennin to top it all off. Oh well, it wasn't that big of a deal either way. All he had to do to solve either problem was to get to the outside of the island and just run around until he found the right port or found the right spot on the beach where Jiraiya was perving on women. Right now he was trying to get his lay of the land. Eventually he'd have to go back to the ship, but for the time being he was going to explore around and see what he could see. Eventually Naruto came upon a big house. A mansion if you would. That was weird. The entire place was a tourist trap. Who actually lived in a normal house in a place like this? It was enclosed by a big brick wall, so it had to be important at one time or another. Actually, once he got a closer look at it, it was revealed to be quite badly damaged from a fire. So why was it still standing then? Maybe it was culturally relevant or something, he didn't know. He wasn't even from that country. Hell, he wasn't from that continent in general. Look at this thing. Yeah, what's it doing out here? Is it wild? No way, then it would be inside of the mansion, not here outside. It's even outside of the gate. It looks really beaten up though. Naruto followed the voices and rounded a corner to find a group of kids his age give or take a year standing in front of the iron gate looking down at something. Jogging up to them, Naruto saw them looking at a dog. It was a little dog, a puppy. A puppy with bright orange fur that had black stripes. On its chest, belly, tail, and a little tuft of hair on top of its head, the fur was a cream color. It had 2 claws on its front feet and no claws on its back feet. Much like he had overheard, it looked quite beaten up, like it had been in a fight recently that had gone bad for it. None of the kids had sticks or were tormenting it, so it wasn't them. Hey, what's with this dog? Naruto asked as he reached the group of kids. The puppy was laying down on the ground, its eyes staring daggers at Naruto and the kids, but otherwise doing nothing but resting. It's weird. What kind of breed is it? He'd never seen a dog like that in his life. It's a Growlithe, man. One of the kids said, tons of them live in that mansion right there. Nobody really goes in there though, it's dangerous. You've got to be a real badass trainer to take a chance on going in there. For sure. Another boy said, this one's kind of small though. I think it's young. Why is it out here though? It's just a baby. Naruto said, moving closer to it as the little dog growled softly. I've never heard of a Growlithe breed dog before. Are there a lot of them in Kanto? He asked, slowly moving towards the thing and not breaking eye contact so that he didn't spook it. At least it wasn't a cat. He hated cats. Damn Tora. Damn Tora to the depths of hell. You can find them from place to place, but the only place you can find any on Saber is in that mansion. Cool. Naruto said with a smile. So a breeder either lived in that mansion or kept these dogs in there, kind of like an Inuzuka. He cracked as he got close enough to reach out to the Growlithe in an attempt to pet it. Hey. How are you doing? My name's Naruto. You okay, buddy? Growl growl. Growlithe barked out and let loose a barrage of fiery sparks from its mouth, hitting Naruto in the face and knocking him on his backside as he rolled around on the ground, holding the spot where he took the attack. The kids all jumped back, fearing that they had just watched someone get maimed, but Naruto just sat up with light burns on his face. Ow. What the hell was that? He pointed at the Growlithe accusingly. Did that thing just shoot bits of fire at me? The kids all looked at each other and shrugged. He didn't know what a Growlithe was at first, so how would he have known anything else about it? He clearly hadn't seen one before, yeah. Growlithe's a fire-type Pokemon. That was Ember. It really is a baby then, huh? It's too weak to do something bigger like a flamethrower. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Naruto sputtered out, wiping the soot from his face and bringing the whole conversation to a halt. What's a Pokemon? Is that what you guys call dogs in this country? No. The Growlithe is a Pokemon. Keep up, dude, duh. Know yourself. Snapped Naruto with a tick mark on his head. That's a dog. It's a weird fire-breathing dog, but I've seen weirder stuff before. I don't know what a Pokemon is. I'm not from Kanto. All 3 young boys looked at each other and then back at Naruto as if to ask if he were really serious. Naruto was starting to get tired of the uneasy silence and his thoughts strayed back to the weird fire dog that was staring him down still. Naruto got close to it again and crouched down in front of it, locking his bright blue eyes with the Growlithe's own and staring it down without flinching. Ember be damned. But then all of a sudden, Naruto remembered the words that Tsunade had given him on Kanto before he had ever even left Konoha 2 months ago. But from the first trip a report came that there were many strange animals with high combat capabilities in this place. Well, breathing fire counted as high combat capabilities by any shinobi standards, and then the dominoes started falling into place for Naruto. Oi. he said, getting the attention of the kids observing him and the Growlithe. So do all of these Pokémon have powers like this guy here? Kind of. One of the boys answered, scratching his scalp as he thought of how to answer. I mean, there's all kinds of different Pokémon. A Growlithe is just one species. There are flying birds like Pidgeys, and there are the tentacles that you can always find just offshore. But they do all have abilities and stuff. It was hard to fathom that there was someone that didn't know about Pokémon. But here he stood, crouching down in front of an ornery, injured Growlithe, staring it down like he didn't just get his face singed moments ago. Naruto just kept staring into the Growlithe's eyes and nodded at the answer. That was what he figured. So do any of you know first aid to help this thing out? He asked, getting silence as a no by default. Okay, well, is there some kind of vet or a hospital for this thing we can go to? Those bruises and wounds look painful. There's a Pokémon center not too far away from here. One boy said, getting Naruto to turn his head towards him in a deadpan stare of confusion. The boy palmed his face and revised his previous response. It's a hospital for Pokémon like the Growlithe puppy. Oh? Great. Naruto said before reaching out to pick the Growlithe up. It started growling again until the boys grabbed Naruto's arms just in time to save him from getting bit by the fire dog. What's with this thing? Why is it still fighting when it's hurt? I'm trying to help you, you stupid mutt. It's wild. A boy said, letting go of Naruto's arm. It's not just gonna let you pick it up, stupid, no matter how hurt it is. It's territorial, and you're right in its territory. If you want to help it, you're going to have to catch it. Right. Naruto said, cracking his knuckles before moving in to pick up the Growlithe again, which is what I'm trying to do. It's not like it's running away. No, damn it. It's like you're 3 or something. A boy that had grown impatient with Naruto's lack of general Pokémon knowledge grabbed Naruto's wrist and opened his hand, placing a small orb into it. Here, use that, a Pokeball. He said, pressing on the little button in the middle of it to make the ball suddenly expand to fit Naruto's hand neatly. The black horizontal border separated the orb into 2 conjoined segments. A red top half and a white bottom half. Naruto tossed it up and down in his hand experimentally before a sudden shout from the same boy jolted him out of his own world. Throw the damn thing already. He shouted before regaining his temper and explaining further. Usually you have to weaken a Pokémon before you're guaranteed to catch it in a Pokeball, but this Growlithe is already really hurt, so that's not necessary. So just throw this at it and that should be that. Taking in all of this information and hoping he didn't forget any of it later as it sounded very useful, Naruto locked eyes with the Growlithe that was staring back at him just the same as always. Alright. I'm gonna get you better in no time. Naruto said as he threw the ball and hit the Growlithe right on top of the head, bouncing off into the air and hovering for a moment right before Naruto's eyes. The Growlithe seemed to be converted into energy as it got sucked right into the ball that closed and sealed shut, falling to the ground. Whoa. He said as he walked over to pick it up. Wait. A boy held Naruto back as the ball started rolling back and forth, the button in the center flashing red for a moment before a small noise emitted from the object. Okay, now you can pick it up. That's your Growlithe now. Shrugging it off, Naruto walked over and picked up the Pokeball before turning to the boy that gave it to him. Hey, wait. Would you give it to me? You could have just done that yourself. I didn't want to catch it for myself just to take it to the Pokémon Center. I can't take care of a Growlithe, I already have a Pokémon, and I'm not a trainer. I'm not strong enough to really have more. So this Growlithe is mine now? Naruto said questioningly, to take care of and all of that. Yep, you can use it to compete in battles, fight with wild Pokémon to try and catch those too, or you can just hang out with it. It's yours. You can even let it go later for good if you want to. The boy that had spoken then pointed into a direction. Turn down that road and keep going until you reach the main street. From there head west. The Pokémon Center isn't far from Main Street, you can see it as clear as day. A big red roof and a big P on it. All Pokémon centers have a big P on them. Good luck. All of the boys smiled at the weird kid they had just met as he seemed to still be taking all of this in. Still looking at the Pokeball that housed his new Growlithe, Naruto finally let a smile grow on his face. You're mine to take care of, Growlithe. You and me are going to be a kick-ass ninja Pokémon team, Dadabeo. He looked at the kids that had helped him out and grinned at them. Thanks guys, hope we meet up again someday. With that, he jumped towards the closest rooftop and began heading in the previously indicated direction. The 3 boys just stared after Naruto with wide eyes, as if they hadn't really seen what had just occurred. Did that guy just jump 15 feet off of the ground? The other 2 nodded. Who the hell was that guy? I think he said his name was Naruto. Weird, but that was seriously cool. A few minutes later, Saber Island Main Street. Late afternoon, denizens of Saber Island were treated to the sight of a blonde kid jumping rooftop gaps like cracks in the sidewalk as Naruto traveled skyway style to the Pokémon Center that he eventually came to a stylish landing in front of. He looked around, wondering why everyone was staring at him until he remembered that there weren't any ninja in Kanto. An embarrassed blush marked his cheeks as he walked through the automatic doors. It was a big place on the inside with linoleum floors, lots of planters set for aesthetic effect, many chairs as people seemed to be waiting around and chatting. Food as well as tons of people were eating while they were talking and waiting. Naruto's stomach growled loudly, but he ignored that, walking to what he assumed was the front desk. Behind it was a cheerful-looking woman with pink hair that was fixed in a style that had 2 loops going down the back. On her head sat nurse's hat and she wore an apron dress with a pink shirt underneath it. "Hello. Can I help you?" "Yes," Naruto said, fishing his only pokeball out of his pocket and holding it out. I have a Growlithe here, it's pretty hurt. Can you help it out? I found it outside of that mansion that's closer to the middle of town." "You went to Pokemon Mansion?" The nurse asked Naruto as she took his pokeball and put it on some kind of machine. "That's rather dangerous." She saw Naruto's eyes locked firmly on the machine and gave him a reassuring smile. "Oh, this is just for a basic check over your Growlithe." The machine began to kick on and an outline of the Growlithe's frame came onto a screen for her and Naruto to see. Growlithe around here, and especially in the mansion, aren't this low level. This one is only a level 6. She turned to see a blank expression on Naruto's face and giggled. "A newbie are you?" Naruto grinned sheepishly. "Yeah, I don't really know anything about Pokemon. I just captured this Growlithe because it was hurt and wouldn't let me take it here for help." "That's very kind of you," the nurse said before turning to call out to something. Chansey. A pink egg-shaped creature with stubby arms, stubby legs, a short tail, a pouch on its front with an egg in it, and 3 hair-looking growths on each side of its head, came out to take Naruto's Growlithe's Pokeball to another room. "Not to worry. Chansey will have your Growlithe all fixed up in no time. But in the meantime, here." She reached behind the desk and handed Naruto a small guide. "If you don't know much about caring for Pokemon or Pokemon in general, you should read this while you wait." "Reading," Naruto said with a grimace before resigning himself to his fate. "Okay. Thank you. You can call me Nurse Joy." "Ah. Thank you, Nurse Joy," Naruto said before pointing to himself. "I'm Naruto. Uzumaki Naruto. Nice to meet you." Nurse Joy gave Naruto a small bow as Naruto walked off to find an open place to sit down and wait for his Pokemon to be healed. He picked a spot on a long couch and cracked the book open, figuring he should at least know how to keep from either killing his Growlithe or getting himself killed. The elemental types of Pokemon: water, fire, grass, ground. Hours later. A sleeping Naruto, leaning back with his head hanging over the back of his seat with his book placed over his face, snored away until the back of his chair took a kick that stirred Naruto from his slumber. The book slid off of Naruto's face to find that it was Jiraiya. "Oiro Senin. I wondered where you went," he said before yawning. "Is my Growlithe okay yet?" "I'm assuming that's a Pokemon," Jiraiya said, getting a nod from Naruto. "You have one already?" Another nod. "Kami kid, we haven't even been in the country for a whole 12 hours yet and you're picking up the wildlife." Naruto grinned cheekily, getting Jiraiya to roll his eyes. "I've been looking for you all day. I've got something important to tell you on the way back to the ship. We're setting off." "Okay," Naruto said, stashing his book into his pocket and jumping up from his chair to head back over to the desk where he had been before his nap. "One sec, I've got to get my Pokemon back from Nurse Joy." Bounding up to the desk with a big grin, he spoke to the nurse from earlier. "Is my Growlithe alright?" Once again, Nurse Joy giggled at Naruto's demeanor before handing him a particular Pokeball. "Yes. It just needed some light treatment and some rest. It's a male Growlithe, by the way, in case it mattered to you." It didn't, but it was good to know either way. Naruto nodded and looked up at Joy with his big bright eyes. "Thanks a lot. How much money do I owe you?" he asked before something set in and he frowned heavily. "Because I don't have any money. It's free. Pokemon centers provide a free service for trainers and their Pokemon." Joy informed him with a bright smile. "If your Pokemon ever need help you can bring them to any center in Kanto and they'll assist you." That was in the book. Naruto's face turned to one of embarrassment at that topic being brought up. "I didn't get that far." "How far did you get? How far was the part that you're talking about?" "The 10th page." "Oh. Well, I didn't get that far." "What do you mean we can't summon?" Naruto asked as he and Jiraiya walked back to the ship in the sunset. "I don't get it." He simply had to see for himself as he bit his own thumb to draw blood and did the hand seals before slamming his hand on the ground. "Kuchius no Jutsu, summoning jutsu." Nothing happened, of course. Can I still do my other jutsu? Naruto wondered in panic as he formed his cross-finger seal. "Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, Shadow Clone Jutsu." In a puff of smoke, a Naruto clone appeared at the walking Genin side, getting both Naruto and the clone to sigh in relief before it dispelled. "Yes, our other jutsu work, we just can't summon," Jiraiya informed him. Things weren't as grim as he first figured, he just couldn't summon some amphibious backup. But what was with the block on summoning? He had to figure this out and he had a way as to how he'd pull that off in a short while. He just needed to test something first once they reached the Kanto mainland. While temporarily losing his connection to the toads was a major blow, Naruto had made a new friend that day that he hadn't introduced yet. "Oh, my Pokemon. You haven't met him yet. Here, check it out," he said, reaching into his pocket to pull out the Pokeball that he threw forward. With a popping noise, and in a stream of white energy, Growlithe appeared, sitting on his haunches and looking at Naruto and Jiraiya curiously, looking 100 times healthier now. "Hey buddy, are you still all mean like you were at the mansion?" Naruto asked, stooping down again. The puppy Pokemon's response was to jump at Naruto in order to knock him to the ground and begin licking his face, getting Naruto to laugh and try to push the fire-breathing dog away from him. "The dog," Jiraiya said, staring at the scene before him. Eventually he just chalked this up to just another day in the life and started walking back to the ship. "Come on brat, don't fall behind and get lost because those sailors don't wait. You and your mutt get into gear so we can get going." Naruto and the Growlithe stopped their interaction with Naruto looking at the dog and rubbing him on the head. "It's alright boy. That's just Iro-senin. He's all cranky right now because he hasn't seen boobs in 2 months and he had to spend all day at a beach worrying about summoning the toads instead of being a perv." He couldn't really blame him though. No toad summoning was troubling news. He didn't know that there were places where he couldn't summon. What made Saber Island so special about it? But with the Growlithe, he committed the name Iro-senin to memory when it came to the big man with white hair that seemed to be friends with his trainer. And why did the back of Iro-senin's long spiky hair look like it was teasing him? It was thoroughly pissing the Growlithe off and he decided to do something about it as he charged right at Jiraiya's backside, mouth open. "Growlithe." Snap. "Ah. The damn dog bit me in my ass." Naruto got up off of the ground and started running after Jiraiya and his new Pokemon before they lost him in the streets. "I guess I'll call you Ranbound, Violent Blaze," he said, speaking mostly to himself as he sped up to catch up to his teacher and his aggressive Growlithe. Chapter 2. A matter of fact. "Come on brat, show me what you've got," Jiraiya ordered from Naruto, facing off from him on the open portion of deck provided to the two of them by the sailors on their ship for a spar. "Let the fruits of my tireless work be shown." Naruto rolled his eyes but did as his teacher requested of him. "If you're asking for it, you've got it Iro-senin." So fast, his fingers weren't even seen making the hand seal. Naruto created over a dozen cage bunshin who all scattered across the ship trying to disorient Jiraiya amid the cheering of the sailors that were given a break to watch Naruto try and put his training to practical use. Before it was too late to act, Jiraiya formed a few hand seals and activated his next jutsu, Hari Jizo, Needle Jizo. Jiraiya's long spiky white hair grew around his entire body and hardened up just as Naruto's clones launched shuriken of multiple sizes at him. Instead of harming him they just bounced off of his hard, sharp hair as if it was made of metal. "Ho ho. That's dangerous you know." "Shut up." The clones all barked in unison before renewing their attack with a different approach. Looking as if they would all rush into attack, Jiraiya was about to chide Naruto for his lack of strategy that he figured he had beaten into his head when going up against a superior opponent by then, but that all changed when he saw a puff of smoke by his feet. Two of Naruto's large shuriken transformed into the boy himself, looking as if they were going to prepare a Rasengan. Hari Jigoku, Needle Hell. Needles shot out from Jiraiya's hair and hit not only the two Narutos that were preparing an attack, but the Narutos all over. Even the sailors had to take some cover to avoid being hit by the jutsu as they ducked behind crates, barrels, anything they could find. "Oops. Sorry," he said sheepishly before noticing that he hadn't hit the real Naruto. Both of the two preparing the Rasengan had been clones. Damn little bastard was getting better at using those clones to wear down the competition without putting himself into harm's way. Apparently getting beaten up periodically for 2 months taught him to look before he leapt so to speak. So where was he? Looking around the deck, Jiraiya's eyes rested on Naruto's recently obtained Growlithe, who was obediently sitting off to the side amongst the sailors, just observing the match between the two, panting excitedly at the action. The brat's dog would have to know where he was. Dogs had some kind of bond with their masters that had them seek them out all the time, didn't they? He had to be of some help. "Where is he boy?" Jiraiya said in a patronizing baby voice. "Come on, where's the brat?" "Where's your owner?" he said, turning around to point across the ship, hoping the dog would back when he pinpointed the right spot. Not exactly liking the baby voice and once again seeing the swishing white ponytail antagonizing him when Jiraiya turned around, Ranbound stopped being so happy and growled at Jiraiya, looking like he was about to stand up and attack as he barked angrily at the middle-aged sage. "Grrr growl." Growled. Jiraiya looked prepared to dodge whatever the ornery dog that had been downright hostile to Jiraiya for some reason whenever he turned his back on him when Naruto jumped down from a spot on the mast and tried to run over to stop Ranbound from attacking his sensei. "Ranbound stop. Don't attack Iro-senin." The gleam came to Jiraiya's eye and he rushed over to deliver a kick to Naruto. "Don't be so merciful." Fight's not over yet, brat. I never said stop. When the wooden sandal connected with the small blonde boy, Naruto turned into smoke, another clone. He then felt a massive influx of chakra coming from behind him. Duh. Did you really think I gave a damn if Ranbauen bit you or shot fire sparks at you? I'm not blowing my hiding spot for that. Jiraiya turned around to see Naruto charging at him, a clone at his side, and a larger than normal Rasengan between them. Both of their eyes were red, showing that they were drawing upon the Kyuubi to power their jutsu. I needed some time to charge this. Adama Rasengan, Great Bull Rasengan. Jiraiya held out his hands and desperately waved them to get Naruto to stop. Brat, turn it off. If you hit me with it, you'll mess the ship up. Remember what happened every time you ever tried it. They had to start working that jutsu on the water because the potential for explosions occurring from that jutsu were guaranteed with every use. Naruto and his clone realized this and stopped in their tracks, falling face first onto the deck after letting the Rasengan fade. The clone disappeared and the original picked himself up onto his feet. Ugh, ow. So did I win this spar, what? He asked with a grin, his more feral Kyuubi features fading. I got you to say stop. The bark of laughter came from Jiraiya as he shook his head. Ha, you're still a few years too early to beat me with that one. I'd have dodged it and you would have sunk in the ship. That's why I said to stop. It was for all of our sakes. Roll. Snap. Ah. Jiraiya shouted as Ranbauen latched his teeth onto Jiraiya's backside and continued to growl, not letting go of the grizzled old shinobi. What's with this dog? He doesn't bite anyone else like this. He turned towards Naruto, who was stifling a laugh, and pointed to the puppy Pokemon attached to his butt. Get him off. Naruto let out a few snickers but pulled out a pokeball and called Ranbauen back. Return. A stream of red light shot out of the middle button of the ball and turned Ranbauen into red energy that got sucked back into the device, freeing Jiraiya from his jaws. After the dog was back in the pokeball, Naruto let out one more snicker and whispered to the ball, "Good boy, we'll work on what I know about your attacks later." Ignoring that, Jiraiya walked gingerly through the sailors to get to the hold of the ship. Do Pokemon have rabies? I need to get the bite wounds on my ass disinfected. Sometime later, unknown town. The ship landed in a narrow inlet that only seemed to be able to house that vessel and nothing else. Upon getting off of the ship and onto the ground again, the first thing Jiraiya did was make his needed hand seals and slam his palm right onto the ground. Kuchius no Jutsu, summoning jutsu. Just like on Saber Island, there was nothing. Still no toads? Naruto asked, frowning as he already knew the answer. On Saber Island it didn't matter that much since he was still excited from getting Ranbauen and being in a new place, but it was starting to get a bit disconcerting since it kept happening. What's going on? I wish I could tell you, kid. Jiraiya said, getting back up from touching the ground. It worked when we were on the ship. I hadn't used it for a week before trying it once we landed at Saber Island though. Why can't we summon here? There isn't supposed to be any range to summoning. Is there anything I can do to help? The chances were low, but Naruto still wanted Jiraiya to know that he was aware of the situation and how important it was. The toads were his identity pretty much. He repeatedly introduced to him. More than half of his self-introductions were toad-related. However, Jiraiya just started walking about, hand on his chin, and thought, I don't think so, kid. You've got your mission to get to right. Why don't you poke around this place and see what you can figure out? First of all, find out what it's called. Figuring that the best thing he could do at the moment was follow the order that was given to him to proceed with the task bestowed upon him by Tsunade, Naruto did just that and left Jiraiya to his own devices. There wasn't really a beach here, so there wasn't an overt worry that Jiraiya would go off to ogle women. He seemed too preoccupied to do so anyway. So Naruto took the time to walk around the small town. The roads were dirt trails, and the homes looked very different from what he was used to in Konoha. There were a few trees, but none of the volume that the elemental nations possessed. Secrecy and misdirection apparently wasn't a big thing, and being able to easily get to places was probably important to them. Instead of forests, this town had a lot of open grassy plains with kids a few years younger than him playing around in them. Probably kids that would be in the academy if they were in Konoha. It was peaceful. Walking around for long enough, Naruto managed to see a very large residence with a windmill sitting on top of it, situated atop the largest hill in the town. That looked like an important place. Hey. Naruto shouted at the kids to get their attention. What's that big building up on that hill? The kids looked at each other before speaking up. That's Professor Oak's lab. Are you a trainer? One of the kids asked. He didn't look like he trained people, did he? But then again, Konohamaru asked him to train him and he didn't even seem to care that Naruto was just a genin. So what kind of answer could he give them? Shrugging his shoulders, Naruto responded, I train. Why? And why does that Oak guy live in such a big house? Looking like they were conferring upon themselves, Naruto eventually cleared his throat and got their attention back on him. Oh. Well, if you're a trainer you probably want to go there. Everyone that trains and comes to Pallet Town goes to see him. Yeah, and he knows like everything about Pokemon too. Well, that last thing was all that Naruto needed to hear. Giving the kids a thankful grin, he nodded before turning down the path and taking off speedily towards the lab. Thanks you guys. He shouted back at the kids that were awestruck at how fast he ran. Pallet Town, Professor Oak's laboratory. It was kind of an intimidating place to stand directly in front of the doors of, and Naruto was not very eager to knock on the front door. A frown marred his face as he seemed to be balancing the possible pros and cons of getting this person's attention. A professor that lives at the edge of town by himself in a big house by itself on a hill. I've seen scary movies that started like this. Are you going in or are you just going to block the door all day? Naruto turned around to see a boy his age walking up the hill path towards the lab. He had spiky brown hair and wore a purple long-sleeved shirt, jeans, and brown boots on his feet, as well as a reflective pendant on his chest. He seemed rather impatient as he got closer to Naruto, eventually sliding past him to enter. Not really knowing what else to do since this kid just seemed to walk on in, Naruto followed. Sorry, I didn't know I could just go in. Naruto said, rubbing the back of his head sheepishly. So you train? He asked, trying to make conversation. The boy turned around towards Naruto and smirked. You should go ahead and remember this name since you asked me that. My name is Gary Oak, and I can tell you that in 1 year I'll be the best trainer in Kanto. Guaranteed. Well, there wasn't any lack of confidence in this guy at all. But it did beg the question from the blonde foreigner, why year exactly, Oak? Because I'm starting for real today. He replied sharply before getting a tick mark on his head at what Naruto called him. Hey, don't use my last name like that, it sounds lame. If you've got to use my name or call me anything, just call me Blue, alright? No one uses my actual name anyway. Blue? That's weird. Oh, well, I'm Uzumaki Naruto, but you can just call me Naruto, I guess. He then started looking around the multiple books on shelves and the more technological shelves that seemed to hold pokeballs. So what are you doing here anyway? I came here to talk to this Prof. Oak guy. I heard he knows a lot about Pokemon, so maybe he can help me out. Blue chuckled a bit as they walked to a lab room with an open view of a large patch of land that must have been laboratory property. Yeah, Gramps knows his stuff. He's like the most famous Pokemon researcher in Kanto. Gramps? Naruto said before thinking about the kid's name. It was Oak, like Prof. Oak. Ignoring Naruto's questioning tone when repeating part of his previous statement, Blue cupped his hands by his mouth and yelled, Oi! Gramps, are you here? You told me to show up today to get my first Pokemon. The shout echoed through the lab, even through the second level of the lab up the stairs, where a shout came down in response. Blue. Ah, I lost track of time again. There were the sounds of rummaging upstairs before footsteps, and finally the sight of a figure descending the steps. I'm coming, I'm coming. A man with short gray hair and bushy black eyebrows that wore a pair of brown slacks and a red button-up shirt underneath an open lab coat. I was just finishing selecting your first Pokemon for you. He said, walking up to Blue with a smile as he held out a Pokeball. An excited Blue eagerly received the ball with a huge smile on his face. Thanks, Gramps. He said, eyes not peeling away from the ball for a moment. You just gave the future champion his first Pokemon, you know. Just make sure that you go see your mother and sister before you head out on your journey. Prof. Oak chuckled a bit and gave Blue a pat on the head before realizing that there was someone else there with them. Oh, where are my manners? I just left my other guest here without acknowledging him at all. Hello. He said before catching sight of the calmly smiling blonde boy that made Prof. Oak think he had seen a ghost, gasped Minato. It's been 15 years. You're way smaller than I remember and wearing more orange. Naruto's brow furrowed in confusion. My name's Naruto. Uzumaki Naruto. He then realized that Oak had used the name of the Yondaime Hokage. Wait, you knew that guy? That guy was the leader of my village. He said with a big grin. Minato was? Oak said before beginning to laugh. Ah, that was a trustworthy young man back then. I assume you're from the same place he came from. You're kind of far out of the way, aren't you? How is Minato doing anyway? It had been a very long time since that man had stumbled through the streets of Pallet Town, a confused expression on his face until he finally ran into Prof. Oak, and slightly less longer since Oak saw off the Konoha ship housing his foreign friend for the last time. At that, Naruto's grin dropped, remembering the circumstances around the Yondaime Hokage's loss of his position in Konoha. Well, he died 12 years ago to protect our village. He said, not adding the exact specifics in case this person was actually good friends with the former Hokage and would see Naruto differently, perhaps in a negative light. The expression on Prof. Oak's face fell at hearing that touch of bad news. Oh, I see. That's quite sad. I knew him very well when his ships from the elemental nations came here. He walked up to the largest building in Pallet Town and asked me whatever he could. He began to walk over to the large screen door that led to the back of the property and looked out onto the land as he continued to talk. The world lost a very good young man in that case. Lost on the context of the conversation, Blue finally chose to interject, "Gramps, you know this kid." Prof. Oak turned around towards his grandson and spared a look at Naruto before chuckling and replying, "No, I can't say that I've had the fortune of meeting Naruto here before. I know of his village though. It's an exceedingly faraway place. Farther than Hone, farther than Unova. The distance is incredible. Thousands of miles. So far that Pokemon don't even exist there. So what brings you to Kanto in the first place? Don't tell me you're sightseeing from the stories that Minato and his crew told your homeland." He joked. "Well," Naruto said before looking around and whispering to the older man, "I'm on a big-time S-rank mission for my village. But it's okay, I can tell you though because I need your help. I'm here to report whatever I can find on Pokemon for my village leader." "Mission?" Blue said before letting out a laugh as he looked at Naruto. "What are you, some kind of soldier or secret agent? You're a runt, who'd send you on a mission?" Naruto glared at Blue and prepared to give him a heated earful until Prof. Oak spoke up once more. "I see. Well, this is a very difficult mission that you've been sent on, young man," he said, walking off to a desk in the corner of his room, seeming like he was looking for something, "but from what I know of your home, I feel it's one that you can handle if you were sent here." While this was happening, Blue was in disbelief. "Gramps, you actually believe this kid? How can anyone send him on a mission? He's not any older than me. Minato told me all the time that the majority of the youth in his homeland became soldiers for their village's standing military. To keep the peace and defend the region's interests among other things." Prof. Oak said, still rummaging around, looking for something, "So yes, I do believe him. Especially since the first thing that Minato asked for when we first met was if he had any work that paid. Saying something along the lines of even D-rank missions would do at this point." He remembered with a laugh, thinking about how confusing those days were before he found what he had been looking for. "Ah. Here we go, this is it." When the man made his way back over to Naruto, Blue saw what was in his hand and quickly snapped his head back towards Naruto. "What? You're giving him a Pokédex? What the hell is up with that?" "Language?" Oak said sternly with a pointed glance that got Blue to recoil a bit, "And yes, I am. If this boy's mission is to find information on the Pokemon of our world, then he would need a tool like this to catalog the information of what he sees." He placed a red, thin rectangular device into Naruto's hand that had a part that opened up to reveal a screen and buttons inside. "Naruto, this is a Pokédex. If your mission really does entail finding out all about Pokemon that you can, this will at least help out in regards to keeping the information. No writing." Oh, thank goodness. As far as Naruto was concerned, he really didn't want to deal with having to write a mission report for an S-rank mission like this. At least he didn't have to write all he found on Pokemon. Who knew exactly how many that would be or how much he'd need to write? His worst nightmare. Accepting the device with a grin, Naruto looked at it before grabbing the ball containing his Pokemon to let it out. "Come on, Ranbound, let's see how this thing works." In a pop of energy, the Pokeball released a fire-breathing dog that looked around his new surroundings curiously. "You had a Pokemon already?" Blue said, pointing at Naruto's Growlithe. Didn't his grandfather just say that Naruto was from a place without Pokemon at all? Out of excitement at finally getting something on the Pokemon he apparently owned, Naruto flipped open the Pokédex that scanned Ranbound and relayed its information to Naruto as a picture of a Growlithe, its footprints, possible attacks, and basic metric info appeared on the screen. Growlithe. The puppy Pokemon. Growlithe has a superb sense of smell. Once it smells anything, this Pokemon won't forget the scent, no matter what. It uses its advanced olfactory sense to determine the emotions of other living things. Extremely loyal, it will fearlessly bark at any opponent to protect its own trainer from harm. Oh, so the freaking Pokédex talk too. Also convenient. Seeing Naruto's focus on the information in the Pokédex, Prof. Oak gave Ranbound a few pats on the head. "Now since you have a Pokemon here, I don't believe I need to offer you one, which is good because I don't have any starters ready. Still though, fire-type Pokemon are notoriously hard for beginners to control." "Ow." He yelped when he accidentally wound up with his hand in Ranbound's mouth for a moment. "Heh, he's mouthy." "Ranbound's good," Naruto said, kneeling down and giving the Growlithe a hug, prompting him to lick Naruto's face spiritedly. "He bites everyone like that when they first try to pet him. He bit me like that. At least you're not Iro-senin though, he bites him for real." Blue looked at Naruto and his Growlithe and let out a laugh after getting over the fact that some random kid from across the ocean had a Pokemon before him. "Can't even control your Pokemon," he then shrugged haplessly and turned around. "It doesn't really matter anyway. That thing's a runt. I wouldn't have even bothered catching it." Knowing when someone was talking about him, Ranbound growled at Blue and barked the name of his own species gruffly several times until Naruto rubbed his neck to calm him down. "Hey, there's nothing wrong with Ranbound," Naruto insisted, getting up from his kneel. "I bet he's already stronger than whatever you've got in that Pokeball." From the book that Naruto read to learn a little bit on how to possibly take care of his Pokemon, he learned that people that had Pokemon had them fight each other from time to time. Well, this was one of those times, why don't we battle and find out? Blue shook his head, still smirking before turning to leave the lab. Sorry. I've got an important trip to go on. You see, I'm about to go out and beat every gym leader in Kanto and enter the Pokemon League. I can't waste any time with that, especially with some kid and his angry growl. He spared a wave to Prof. Oak before reaching the front door. Thanks for the Pokemon, Gramps. I can't wait to show you how many strong Pokemon I catch. Naruto stared after Blue as he left the building before muttering under his breath, I don't like that guy. He said flat out and plainly, not even apologizing for saying it in front of Blue's grandfather. Barry is a good boy, he's just had it in his mind that since I'm his grandfather that makes him a superior prospective keeper of Pokemon. Prof. Oak said as he knelt down to Ranbauen and rubbed his head again, much to the young Growlithe's delight, there's nothing wrong with this little guy at all. He's young and he's very healthy, aside from that I know from experience that his teeth are strong. Ranbauen ran over from Prof. Oak to Naruto and started playing tug-of-war with his Funmaster's Pokeball that usually housed him when it was time to rest, Growl. While the puppy started playing with Naruto, Oak looked at the boy and couldn't help but see parts of Minato in him. Goodness, he looked similar to him, but too different to ask the question he wished to ask. Also from the way that Naruto never referred to Minato as his father, it led the scientist to believe that his assumption of such was mistaken. I wish you luck, Naruto. That Pokédex is set to send any extra Pokémon you catch to me, so just give me a call whenever you need any. My number is in the Pokédex. And take yourself some Pokeballs from the shelves, so that in case you find any Pokémon you would like to have you can capture them. Naruto heard the old scientist and stopped his play with Ranbauen to give him a huge grin. Wow, thanks professor. For an old guy you're really cool. With that, Naruto grabbed a few Pokeballs and ran for the door. I've got to go tell my sensei all of this stuff. You two should meet each other, you're both old, so you'd have something to talk about. As Naruto left, Oak couldn't help but remember Minato's own rapport with the Pokemon he had managed to catch when he was in Kanto. Though he let them go because he feared that they wouldn't live healthily in the elemental nations. Naruto had a kind spirit much like that man did. One thing irked him about young Naruto though, I'm not old am I? Alatown Seaside Inlet. Naruto and Ranbauen chose to run all the way through town back to the dock where the ship was situated. It had been a few hours since he had left that place to check out the town, but when he returned he found the ship ready to set sail again. Naruto, come here. Jiraiya said, leaning against a post on the docks as sailors were loading and unloading things on and off the ship, I've got something I need to tell you. Jogging over to Jiraiya with a grin, Naruto started first, Hiro-senin, I found some old guy named Professor Oak who gave me something that would help me keep info on Pokemon I find here. That's gonna make this so much easier. He even gave me Pokeballs to catch more too. Jiraiya gave Naruto a smile and ruffled his hair, that's good. Maybe you really can handle this on your own for a bit. He said, getting a look of confusion out of Naruto, I need to see how far out from Kanto I have to be to summon, so I hired this ship to head back the way we came until I can do so. I summoned while we were on that ship, but I hadn't tried it in a while, so I don't know how far it would be. I need to find out why we can't summon here, and when I do I'll come right back and catch up to you. You're leaving? Naruto said in rapt disbelief. He wasn't going to admit that he was scared out loud, but he was being left alone in this strange place. Well, the people did seem nice and the danger seemed less than there happened to be in the elemental nations, there was still a touch of nerves there, but aren't you training me? I'm not leaving for long, kid. Jiraiya said with a roll of his eyes, I'll be gone for a week or two, no longer than that I'm sure of it. And I'll come back to get you and pick up. I've given you something to work on in the meantime, but don't even try touching the Kyuubi's chakra without me unless you're about to die. Naruto nodded chiefly, knowing the dangers of abusing the Kyuubi's chakra. Ranbauen could read the aura between the two Konoha shinobi and whined as he walked over to Jiraiya and butted him in the leg with his nose, getting Jiraiya to rub his head comfortingly, it'll be okay Ranbauen. Return. Naruto said, holding up his Pokeball and recalling his Growlithe into the orb. Naruto took a deep breath and gave Jiraiya a look full of determination, I'll be fine while you're gone Hiro-senin. But how are you going to find me when you come back? How far do you really think you'll get? Jiraiya joked with a grin, you shouldn't underestimate a legendary ninja like myself Naruto. I can find you just like that. He said with a snap of his fingers, all I have to do is follow the roads and the stories of destruction and mischief about a blonde kid that makes copies of himself. He finished under his breath. Naruto scoffed in an offended manner, how much trouble do you think I can get into just looking for Pokemon? Famous last words. Whatever you say kid. Jiraiya said before leading Naruto onto the ship, now come on and gather all of your gear. I paid the captain of this ship to depart before sunset so that I can hurry up and get back to you quickly. The sailors wanted to get back to Kanto's mainland and do some trading too, but Jiraiya's money was good. Very good. After grabbing his things and saying goodbye to the members of the crew he had befriended during travel, Naruto sat on the docks next to his re-released Growlithe and watched the ship disembark and head back out to sea. Well, it wasn't any different than any of the solo missions he had to take right after Konoha's invasion by a Togeker. Hell, chances were it would probably be safer. And he wasn't even alone. He had Ranbound for company. The ship let out a blast of its horn to get Naruto's attention, and he heard Jiraiya's voice yell out to him, "Hey kid. You might want to read the scroll Tsunade gave you now since you're there by now. No prying eyes in Kanto, you know." Blinking to himself, Naruto realized that Jiraiya had a point. Whipping off his backpack, Naruto rummaged around inside for his mission scroll and popped it open to read through it and figure out just what his real directions were before destroying it, as he was supposed to with S-rank mission scrolls. Naruto. I hope that by the time you're reading this you're doing well on your mission. It's just like the kind that you seem to enjoy going on. Difficult, in a new place, and with parameters that you've never heard of anyone else trying to work through before. Don't tell me that you haven't been enjoying yourself thus far, because I know that would be a lie. But this has been written to inform you that the entire reason for this mission was to get you to travel with Jiraiya per the original plan to train you. The same plan that would see you traveling abroad for 3 years to prepare you for the threat of Akatsuki trying to take the Kyuubi from you. And before you say that all you care about is bringing Sasuke back, I'll urge you one more time not to dwell on that, but all the same I'll say that if you can defeat Akatsuki members, then you can take Sasuke down as well. So don't bitch about it and don't be a little punk about it. It's training, so do it, get strong, and if you have to mouth off about it do it there where I can't hear it, because if you wait until you get back to gather your thoughts and shoot your loud little mouth off at me, I'll put you through a wall Jiraiya style. That aside. I wish you luck, Shizune wishes you luck, and Sakura wishes you luck. Since you're there it would be good for you to really perform the mission and gather information on the strange animals of Kanto, and it still counts as an S-rank mission. You just deserve to know the reason for the misdirection. I'll see you again in 3 years. Keep yourself out of trouble, kid. If anyone can handle this it'll be you. Adame Hokage of Konohagakure no Sato, Senju Tsunade. Wow. And as he finished reading through the mission scroll for the 3rd time to validate what he had just seen, Naruto dropped it on the deck and jumped up to his feet to shout at the ship that was swiftly distancing itself from shore, "Oi. Hiro Sennin, you'd better turn right back around now and take this beatdown for tricking me, damn you." The ship just kept going and he could swear that it sped up. "I am going to kick you right in the face when you get back." Ha. If you could do that then you wouldn't need the training trip, would you? Keep working on the last thing I gave you to train on and maybe you'll have a shot. Jiraiya just had to get in one last jab while he was still somehow in earshot. And Naruto's responding loud shout was cut out by the horn of the ship blaring to cover up his voice. Ranbound could hear him clearly though and started howling in correspondence to Naruto's lingering yell. Eventually Naruto ran out of breath and jumped off of the dock to stand on the water and continue expressing his displeasure about being tricked. An S-rank mission, there's always a catch. He grumbled to himself as he kicked around the water beneath his feet as if the ocean could feel pain. "Ow." He shouted, jumping back onto the dock and landing on his belly as he felt something latch onto the front of his kicking foot over all of his toes. What the hell? On Naruto's foot was a light purple complete shell with 2 spikes on the top and 2 on the bottom. For some reason it was latched on tight and it made no sense how a shell got on his foot when he was on the surface of the water. Naruto jumped up and tried to kick and shake the shell off of his foot but fell on his backside as it wasn't going anywhere. Ranbound watched Naruto make a cage bunshin to help him try to pry the shell off of his foot in interest. His master was sure interesting. Nothing was ever boring with him around and he was learning a lot about humans. Because he didn't know that they could do that. Was that how they multiplied instead of being hatched from eggs like Pokemon? "Get off." Naruto shouted as his clone finally gave up trying to pry it off. "Ha, I think we're going to have to Rasengan it off." The clone looked nervous at that proposition. "I know it's crazy, but come on. Just do it." The clone shrugged and moved to Naruto's side to create a Rasengan between the two of them when they heard something high-pitched. "Shelter." They stopped forming the Rasengan between their hands and looked at the shell that was starting to wiggle around on the real Naruto's foot. Ranbound sniffed at the shell and began to growl at it, getting it to shake in fear. The clone looked at the shell and then at Naruto. "You don't think?" Naruto shrugged and pulled out his Pokédex which came with an immediate answer, "Shelter. The Biv of Pokemon. Shelter's hard shell repels any kind of attack. It is vulnerable only when its shell is open. It swims backward by opening and closing its 2 shells. Its large tongue is always kept hanging out." "The Pokemon," Naruto said as Ranbound tried to bite the shell only to recoil with quite a bit of tooth pain. "Ranbound, didn't you just hear the Pokédex? After his dog failed to get the shell off, Naruto's clone helped him back up where he continued to shake his foot and kick about to get the shelter off. Eventually the shaking got to the little Pokemon and it dizzily fell to the ground where Ranbauen proceeded to face off with it, still growling. Now that it was detached from his foot, Naruto could see a pair of eyes and a large tongue from the inside of the shell, and a black body that he couldn't make out within. It didn't seem to be afraid of Ranbauen in the least either now that it was free. Well, he read that Pokemon got into battles, so now was as good a time as any to see what Ranbauen had. But Shelter was a water Pokemon, and that was a problem for Ranbauen's fire type. Still, the little puppy didn't seem to care at all, looking to want to fight regardless of type. Growl. Ranbauen barked, gesturing his head towards the shelter intently for Naruto to pay attention to. Growl. Growled. Alright then. A battle was alright with Naruto, okay, use Ember. He ordered of his Pokemon. Watching as Ranbauen unleashed a volley of small fire sparks from his mouth. Shelter's shell just closed via the use of withdraw to prevent taking any damage from the attack, damn it. We've got to get past that shell. Shelter launched itself at Ranbauen and smashed into its face, knocking him down on the dock, but the tough little dog got right back up and shook himself off, grrrr growl. A look of determination came over Ranbauen's eyes as Shelter launched itself at him again with another tackle, forcing the puppy Pokemon to dodge the attack much in the way he had seen Naruto dodge Jiraiya's attacks during his training on the ship during their few days of travel from Saber Island. Confused as to where Ranbauen had gone due to the limited field of vision available from the inside of that shell, Shelter looked around and then at Naruto in confusion as he grinned and pointed behind the wild Pokemon, Shelter. The growl from up close right behind the seafaring Pokemon got it to freeze up in fear before it turned around and faced the snarling Growlithe right up close. Ember. Naruto ordered with an excited shout as Ranbauen blasted the sparks right into the opening of the shell, peppering the creature inside of the shell relentlessly until it seemed to be rendered unconscious from the barrage, yeah. Naruto shouted as he pulled out a pokeball and threw it at the shelter, enclosing it into the orb that landed back onto the deck. It shook around to show a little bit of fight, but eventually the small noise that signified a successful capture emanated from the ball, got it. Good job Ranbauen. Ranbauen looked at the full pokeball on the dock and let out a few happy and victorious barks, growl. Growled. Following behind his trainer happily, Ranbauen watched Naruto pick up the ball and place it in his supply pouch, growl. With a grin still on his face, Naruto rubbed Ranbauen's head before holding up the pokeball that housed him and recalled him, return. After watching the Pokemon disappear in a red beam of light, Naruto felt his bad mood mostly vanish as he turned back at the empty horizon where the ship was out of sight. So he had all of Kanto to go through, looking for Pokemon like his Growlithe and his new Shelter. Some he could catch the way he did them, but all of them he had to catalog in his Pokédex. And he had to get stronger by himself until Jiraiya came back to help his training. Easy. He was Uzumaki Naruto after all, and he could do anything he wanted. With nothing left to shout or yell, Naruto turned to walk away from the docks to head towards the northernmost path out of Pallet Town. His walk turned to a jog and his jog then turned to an outright run. He had supplies, he had Pokemon, and he had himself. That was all he needed to get ahead as far as he was concerned as he ran through the quiet streets of the small town and let them hear just who he was. Kanto. Say hello to Uzumaki Naruto, Dadabeo. A while later Route 1. Signs on the roads told Naruto that this was the path to another place called Viridian City. It was a wide open area with trees littering the outskirts of the route where the path wasn't beaten, and most Pokemon weren't fool enough to stand in the path of one Uzumaki Naruto who was rolling unopposed over the grounds, hopping up ledges and running a path through tall grass like a reaper. The trip that would have taken most people several hours of walking was shaving time down immeasurably in regards to Naruto due to his all-terrain effectiveness of travel. His answer to any natural obstacle was to run past or around it or to jump over it. He stopped at a river to give his newly named Shelter Hogahei, protective soldier, some time in the water, as well as to let Ranbauen get something to drink before the trip continued. We're almost to that next town. Naruto said to his two Pokemon, noticing that Hogahei was mellow ever since being captured. Are we all good here? He asked, getting two calls of affirmation from his two Pokemon. Alright, return. He called them back to their Pokeballs and prepared to continue onward. No. Rattata, don't let this guy beat you. A shout from a young-sounding voice got Naruto to hurry over to where he found a battle going on between a purple mouse with a wide underbelly that had a long whisker coming out of each cheek and two large visible buck teeth. Rattata. The mouse Pokemon. Will chew on anything with its fangs. If you see one, it is certain that 40 more live in the area. And a small brown Pokemon with a bushy tail and a lighter brown mane around its neck that looked like a mix between a dog, a cat, a fox, a rabbit, and other mammals. EV. The evolution Pokemon. Its irregularly configured DNA is affected by its surroundings. It evolves if its environment changes in certain ways and has multiple possible evolutions. Sand attack. Then follow up with quick attack so we can put an end to this. The trainer of the Rattata, a boy around Naruto's age, watched in helplessness as dirt was thrown into the eyes of the Rattata, setting it up for a follow-up attack that involved the EV quickly darting from its starting place, faster than even Naruto could move to smash into it, knocking it to the ground unconscious. No. Ha. Oh, that voice. Yeah, it had to be Blue. No doubt about it, that's what I'm talking about. My skills are just way ahead of yours, kid. The boy from Pallet Town said as his EV ran back to his side. EV. The EV cried out in a satisfied manner over its victory. Even my EV knows that it's the best. Blue said, still gloating over his victory as he pulled out his Pokeball and recalled his EV to within its confines. The trainers around here all suck. They're so weak. He said to himself as he began to walk past the dejected young man he had just defeated. Hey Blue. Recoiling at hearing his voice shouted by the distinct tone of someone he had met earlier that day, Blue turned around and palmed his face at seeing Naruto jog up to him. Oh no, it's you again. Why are you here? He said before pointing something out. Wait, I left Pallet Town right after I left Gramps' lab. How did you get all the way out here already? I ran. Naruto said matter-of-factly, pointing back the way he came from. I stopped a little bit to see some of the Pokemon around here, fought a few with Ranbaun and Hogahei, and did a little bit of training, but yeah. I pretty much just ran here. Blue's eye twitched at hearing Naruto dismiss such a feat as he didn't even look out of breath, but his tone and the fact that he was there in the first place didn't suggest that he was lying. It's 20 miles from here to Viridian City. Naruto just shrugged in response, getting Blue to palm his face before regaining his previous swagger. But I guess since you're here you saw me take that loser back there apart. That EVE, is that what you got from Professor Oak? Blue nodded proudly at receiving such a rare Pokemon as his first one. Ranbaun is still cooler, even if it just won. Naruto said with a shit-eating grin as he rubbed the space right under his nose. Blue looked offended at hearing Naruto just dismiss how good his EV was on its first day. I don't want to hear that. I've been kicking the crap out of every punk that wanted to battle with me all over the road. I even caught another Pokemon on the way up here. So don't act like you want to see who's got the stronger Pokemon. He saw Naruto smirk as if he had just goaded him into a battle, and he pulled back his previous statement. Yeah, I'd show you who's boss, but Viridian City is just a few minutes away. He said, pointing in the direction where one could see the city not too far from where they were. So what? Naruto asked with a raised eyebrow. Why did it matter to him how close they were to town? He just wanted to see Ranbaun and Hogahei drop Blue's self-esteem into the dirt. What does that have to do with anything? You really don't know anything, do you? Blue said, shaking his head before walking along towards Viridian with his hands in his pockets. I'm saving my energy for the gym in Viridian City, where I'm going to beat the leader. That's more important than beating the crap out of a newbie. A fight with a leader of some gym? Like a dojo? That sounded like Naruto's kind of scene. He wanted to test his training out on someone other than Jiraiya to see if he had really gotten any stronger over the last 2 months of doing nothing but train. I'm in. Naruto said enthusiastically, falling into step with Blue as the two proceeded to walk. None too excited to be walking with Naruto, Blue spoke up about it. Could you stop following me? I don't want whatever makes you a loser to rub off onto me. Not while I'm on the hot streak I'm on today. But I don't know how to find this gym place that you're talking about. Naruto said, looking at Blue through squinted eyes, so I kind of have to follow you to get there, don't I? In return, Blue said nothing, but internally he was repeating to himself just how much he disliked this guy. I am shaking this punk at the very first opportunity, he thought to himself, as Naruto began to chatter to him about everything and nothing all at the same time. A little while later, Viridian City, Viridian Gym. Viridian City was a pretty big place, way bigger than Pallet Town. It had paved streets, tons of homes on each block, trees all over, and like Blue said, there was a gym that he led Naruto right to whether he wanted to or not. But that was where things took a bit of a shift from what was expected. Closed until further notice. Both Naruto and Blue stared at the sign posted on the front of the beautiful-looking building. Traditional Roman architecture and even a fountain surrounded by stairs sat out front, but disappointment was expressly written on Naruto's face. Oh, I wanted to beat this guy up and see if I had gotten any stronger. Whatever. Blue said dismissively, though he had the same sentiments. Unlike Naruto though, who thought it was a gym for humans, Blue meant to test out how strong his EV and his second Pokemon were, but this put a damper on those plans. If you're going to the next town you should head north. Through the forest there. That's the way to Pewter City. Naruto blinked and wondered why Blue was telling him this. Well, aren't you going that way too? Why don't you just come with me? Mostly, Naruto was asking this because he didn't have a map or money. He himself had only eaten some of immeasurable amount of the ramen he had stored in a scroll in his backpack and had shared with his Pokemon, but they didn't seem to share his love of the food, so he would have to get them something else soon. Blue certainly didn't look strapped for cash. Aside from the fact that Blue just didn't like Naruto, which was reason enough to not want to travel with him, he had other reasons which were his own, because I'm not going that way yet. I want to see if I can find any stronger Pokemon around here. He actually wanted to get a move on, but if Naruto really ran from Pallet Town to Viridian City, then having him go ahead was the best way to get rid of him. Why not just wait here for the gym leader to come back? Quite honestly, Naruto did not want to be denied the chance to show off his ninja skills in a fight against this gym leader person, as he still didn't know what the purpose of a gym was in Kanto, under the assumption that it was meant for people. If you want to wait around here forever for this guy to come back, then be my guest. Blue said as he began to walk off, hopeful that he finally got Naruto off of his back. From that point forward he was going to wait in Viridian, maybe make some calls until he could really travel in style the way a future champion like him deserved to travel. On the other hand, Naruto just watched Blue walk off and sighed before starting to do so as well. Before he could even walk down the stairs to get back to the street, the doors to the gym opened as a man stepped out. Excitedly, Naruto turned around and ran up to him, surprising him. The man wore a black suit over a turtleneck shirt that sat under the jacket and had short black hair. "Hey, I want to fight the gym leader in there. Why's the sign on the door if you're here?" The man blinked before smiling sheepishly. "Oh, I'm just checking up on the gym until the gym leader comes back. Sorry, but the gym's still closed. You should go north to Pewter City if you want to fight a gym leader for the time being, up past Viridian Forest." Damn, Naruto muttered before looking back up at the man as he shut the doors to the building and locked the doors. "Well, thanks anyway, OG-san. When this guy comes back I guess I'll be right here to kick his butt the way I plan to." He chuckled at that point. "It'll be easier because I'll be stronger then too. So when he comes back you tell that guy that Uzumaki Naruto is coming for him." Giving Naruto a courteous smile, the man waved to Naruto as he started to walk away, right up until he saw Naruto jump off of the ledge at the edge of the gym's property and onto a rooftop where he proceeded to travel above the streets again. At that sight his face changed from the polite one that had been there previously to a sharper one, more ominous. The man shook his head as a sleek black car with darkly tinted windows pulled up in front of the gym, a man in the passenger's seat getting out to let him inside of it that wore black boots, a pair of black pants, and a black turtleneck with a large red R on it. "Boss. Don't call me that outside, idiot," the boss said as he climbed into the vehicle and the underling got into the passenger's seat as the car took off down the road. "Let's get back to work, shall we?" "Yes, boss. And I'd like our resources to gather information on someone named Uzumaki Naruto. He interests me. Amik. Konoha no Kairoi Senku in Kanto 1. Pallet Town." Minato never thought he'd be so happy to see land in his entire life, but he almost lost his composure and kissed the solid ground once his ship and the other two from Konoha landed safely. Months of storm-laden hell, and there was no desperation summoning a boss-level summon to keep the ship safe for some strange reason. Either way, there were still other Konoha shinobi from the 3 remaining ships, looking around for ways to restock their vessels and find out just where they had been blown off course to. Spearheading the effort by going around, doing the legwork to ask for work the old-fashioned way was Minato. And this led him to the largest building in Pallet Town, a large house at the top of a hill with a windmill on the top of it. He knocked on the door and rang the bell but never got any response. Deciding to take a chance as after the 2 months he had there was nothing that really scared him any longer, Minato opened the door and walked inside, looking around at all of the books and the strange red and white balls that were strewn throughout. The strange machines and copious amount of notes were attention grabbers as well. "Hello? Is there anyone here?" No response came from anywhere in the house. It was still and quiet all over, except for the low hum of some of the machines and the fluorescent lights in the ceiling. Entering a lab room, Minato looked out at the back of the property that this building seemed to have with a small sense of awe. There were acres and acres of open field, and his sharp vision managed to pick up strange species of birds flying through the air and strange large purple rats running on the grass outside, to say the least of what he saw. Wow. Choosing to open the door and step outside to get himself a closer look, Minato walked through the grass looking around as the creatures just seemed to get stranger and stranger the farther away from the laboratory he got. What kind of strange place was this country? Strange small things with blue bodies and shrubs on top of their heads, weird bugs with large mushrooms growing out of their backs. It was pretty amazing. He could stay there all day long, it was so peaceful. And these animals were quite the sight. Help. It was so peaceful and quiet in fact that Minato could hear a faint shout coming from further within the property. Breaking out in a run to find the source of the yell, he came across different shifts in terrain to a sandy environment and then a rocky one, which was where the yell was coming from. Help. A man in a lab coat with brown hair that was beginning to gray was holding onto the ledge of a rocky cliff. Well below him, there was a tall dark gray bipedal rhinoceros-looking creature with a jagged, hard-looking hull and a large drill-like horn on its snout. "Someone help." The man in the lab coat shouted again as the rhino-looking animal rammed into the wall hard enough to chip off pieces of rock and shake the whole thing. "Oh, I can't hold on for too much longer." Minato quickly grabbed a pair of three-pronged kunai and dropped one there on the ground before hurling it right beside where the man in the lab coat was hanging from. The surprise of having a throwing knife impale itself in the rock right by his hands forced the man to let go and begin falling until a yellow flash appeared by the knife. A man with black pants, black sandals, a black long-sleeved shirt and a forest green tactical vest grabbed his hand to keep him from meeting his demise. He looked up at the man's face and saw blue eyes, spiky blonde hair, and a black headband with a metal plate inscribed with a leaf. "Gotcha," Minato said before activating his jutsu again to appear safely on the ground, confusing the rhino thing that wondered just what happened. "That was a close one, wasn't it?" "You're telling me?" the scientist said with a sigh before turning to Minato and falling on his backside once he became self-aware of what was happening again. What was that thing you just did?" "Oration no Jutsu, Flying Thunder God Jutsu," Minato said, helping the man back up. "No one in this town knows how to get back to the elemental nations." The man gave him a blank look, getting Minato to sigh. "Or even what the elemental nations are, man. Kushina is going to kill me when I get back." "Right on." It took a moment, but the creature noticed where Minato and the man he saved were and angrily charged at them both for being hoodwinked like that. The rhino creature lowered its head and forced power to its horn, getting it to glow white as it rushed them. "Ah," the scientist said again, turning to run away now that he was back on the ground. "It's Raiden's horn attack. Run." "Right," Minato said, picking up his Hiraishin kunai off of the ground before throwing it at the Raiden. "Or I can do this." The metal bounced off of the hardened hull of the Raiden and jumped up into the air, where Minato appeared in a flash before he lowered the boom on the back of the Raiden's head. Rasengan, spiraling sphere. In awe, the scientist watched Minato slam a pokeball-sized spinning blue orb of pure energy into a rampaging Pokemon's head, knocking it out cold in a crater that was created by the force of the attack and the weight of the Pokemon itself. Impossible. He thought he had seen everything during his time as a trainer, but this was just amazing. A human effortlessly defeated a Pokemon with maneuvers that resembled Pokemon attacks. This is simply amazing. "Thanks." Minato picked up his Hiraishin kunai off of the ground and placed it back with his other equipment before clearing his throat and deciding to get down to the business he came there for. "So I came here wondering if there were any odd jobs that you needed done. With a big place like this, there's got to be something a hard-working ninja can do to earn some money. Even a D-rank mission would do at this point." The others from Konoha thought they were too good for D-rank missions, but this was no time to be elitist with the work. They needed to resupply and their money was no good there. "What is your name?" the man asked, extending his hand for Minato to shake. "I'm Samuel Oak, a professor of Pokemon." Pokemon? Had to be what those creatures were that he saw all over the place. This man had property full of them, he was a professor of them, and he called the thing that attacked them a Raiden. Easy to deduce. "Well, Oak," Minato said with a smile, "my name is Namikaze Minato of Konohagakure no Sato, and you've never heard of that place." Oak shook his head. "I knew it. And I don't think you have any work for me to do." "Actually," Oak said, stroking his chin as he pointed back in the direction that the building lay at, "this all happened when I tried to release this Pokemon in its particular habitat. It was rather ornery. And I still have roughly 200 more to place in their proper habitats. If you're willing to assist me with this in case of another attack, since you seem to be able to handle yourself, I would gladly pay you handsomely for the work." Finally, things were starting to look up a bit. Nodding in agreement with Oak, Minato began walking back with him towards his lab. "Sure. And while we do that, could you tell me more about this Kanto place and these Pokemon you have here? I'm not really from around these parts." Chapter 3. Kanto Ninja vs Konoha Ninja. The bulk of the trip through Viridian Forest was right up Naruto's alley. It was thoroughly the most fun and the most at home he had felt since showing up in Kanto, so much so that he took his sweet time dwelling there for 5 days, feeding his Pokemon and himself off of the fish he was able to catch from the streams with Hogahei, his shelter, who wound up getting to bottom feed while helping his trainer out. This led to a few battles for the Biv of Pokemon as well with freshwater-dwelling Pokemon, mostly against some stupid-looking weak orange fish called Magikarp, but it was all a matter of gaining experience, not food for him and Ranbaun. Mostly because after catching those fish they were extremely hard to skin. It took forever. Speaking of gaining experience, Ranbaun was the single worst nightmare for any Pokemon, thinking that they would mess with Naruto while he was training. He was a fire-breathing Growlithe with an ornery attitude and no patience for anyone that would harm his master. Bug Pokemon beware. And many Weedle and Caterpie were defeated and chased off by him. Was Naruto disturbing the peace and tranquility of the forest with his constant use of mass cage bunshin for personal combat training? Yes. Did the training for the jutsu that Jiraiya had bestowed upon him during their ride on the ship rock the landscape from time to time? Yes. Did that make it a good idea for stray Beedrill to try and attack Naruto for disturbing the rest of their unevolved Kakuna forms? No. And Ranbauen made sure they paid with fire. Lots and lots of fire, much to Naruto's delight. Right up until Ranbauen wound up hitting one of these unevolved Kakuna while they were in the middle of their group slumber, thus drawing the wrath of dozens of Beedrill. That abruptly ended Naruto's personal training time in the woods and ended with him recalling his Pokémon for their safety and hightailing it all the way out of the woods. Instead of walking around the trees through the safe paths, Naruto ran right through the trees themselves, jumping from branch to branch like he was back in the elemental nations. This again was not a good idea because the trees were where the Kakuna were all hung with string shot to wait for their evolution, and not only did the Beedrill all guarding the Kakuna join in on pursuing Naruto spitefully, some of the Kakuna evolved right then and there and decided to do so as well. Which leads to now. I am not lost, I am not lost, I am not lost. Naruto kept repeating to himself as he kept running through the branches, the hum of death chasing him with their quick wings and mobility through the trees. Damn it, which way is north? I can't see the sun through the leaves. A loud buzz directed Naruto's attention to directly behind him. Ah. One of the bipedal wasps with large shiny eyes and antennae, 2 lower legs, a large stinger from its backside, and insect-like arms with conical stingers attached to the ends of them, got close enough to Naruto to begin trying to stab him repeatedly with those arm stingers, managing to impale him apparently. Only for him to disappear into a puff of smoke with a log in his place, plenty of natural material all around him to work a kawarimi with an explosive tag attached. An oldie but most definitely a goodie. Boom. The resulting explosion caught that Beedrill in addition to quite a few others that had been following close and sent the rest fleeing away from where the blast had occurred from, letting Naruto escape chase from the angry death squad and go his own way. Oh man. I really didn't want to kill them like that. But it was them or me, Naruto said, adjusting his headband before continuing on to find his way out of Viridian Forest. He'd definitely have to make a note somewhere that having a forest full of wild Beedrill guarding other places other than the paths would make it way harder to invade Konoha. Way harder. A little while later. Stupid Blue probably knew he'd get himself lost in there. Naruto's walk through the woods continued further with him trying to remember whatever tricks he could to head north, up to and including trying to find which side of trees moss grew on. Something that actually worked as he advanced further towards the exit of the forest before coming across a little girl that seemed to be academy age with blonde hair and a ponytail, wearing a black long-sleeved shirt underneath an orange sleeveless dress with black leggings. She was watching a caterpie that seemed to be cocooning itself into a metapod with a smile on her face at the process until she noticed Naruto coming her way. "Hello," she said cheerfully. Walking up to her, Naruto returned the smile she was giving him before speaking. "Hi. What are you doing all the way in here by yourself?" "Well, I live around Viridian City," the little girl said, pointing in the direction that she knew was Viridian City. "I come in here all the time to see Pokémon. It's dangerous to go alone, but my friends couldn't come today. My name's Yellow." "Yellow?" Naruto said with a raised eyebrow at another person named after a color. "Is that really your name?" "Well no. It's more of a nickname my friends call me. My real name is really long," the girl admitted bashfully. "I like it though. What's your name?" "Naruto," Naruto said, pointing at himself with a grin. "Viridian City is pretty far away, isn't it? How did you get this far into the woods by yourself?" Yellow gave Naruto a confused look before she realized that he wasn't a local. "Oh, that's right. You probably don't know about the shortcut from Viridian City to Pewter City. It's kind of out of the way, but you don't need to deal with coming in here through one side and maybe getting lost." She saw Naruto's jaw dropped at learning that there was a straightforward path to Pewter City that didn't involve the forest. Do you want me to show you where it is?" "It's near my house." "That would be great," Naruto said with a grateful smile. Shortcuts were always good. Yellow grabbed his hand and started to lead him, but that whole walking thing was too slow for Naruto. He was absolutely done with Viridian Forest and wanted to get the hell out. "Do you mind if we go a bit faster?" he asked. Giving Naruto an apologetic smile, Yellow shook her head. "Sorry. I can't run that fast. I don't have any Pokémon either, so I don't have any that could help." "That's okay." And just like that, Naruto scooped Yellow up on his back piggyback style and took off in a run, much to her surprise, not only because he just picked her up but because he was very fast. Faster than humans were supposed to be. It was fun though, and it didn't take long for her to start laughing at the exciting run. But this time Naruto took care to stay out of the trees for Yellow's safety. With her directions, Naruto took himself right out of the woods and down a somewhat hidden side trail near a tunnel that Yellow pointed out as Diglett Cave, where she told him it was dug entirely by a certain kind of Pokemon. He'd have to investigate that later, but not too much longer later, the amicable meeting between the two came to an end. Yellow still had a bad case of the giggles when she asked Naruto to let her down. It took her a moment to come down from the great ride she had taken to get there, better than any bike she had ridden before, okay. She started, still laughing a little bit, if you want to take the shortcut just come here and go straight south from here until you get to the Viridian side of the forest. That way you don't have to go through the forest at all. She waved and then took off running, excited from being carried by Naruto. Bye Naruto. Thanks, I've got to go home now. Do you want me to take you the rest of the way? He asked, trying to be nice to the girl that had helped him out with something to keep in mind for later. No, I can do it. Yellow yelled back to him, not stopping, go to Pewter City. See you. Naruto just waved at Yellow until she got out of sight, she was a cute little girl. Really nice too. It was always good to meet people like that in the world, especially considering that he knew of so many evil ones, and he'd definitely be coming back to make sure she was doing okay. Naruto thought to himself before taking off in his own direction north to reach his intended destination. Pewter City. The city was surrounded by cliffs and mountains, giving the whole place a very rugged feel to it. The roads were paved with grey brick and there were fields set up as named parks where people took their Pokemon to walk and to battle with other trainers for fun and experience. Naruto himself had enough of Pokemon battles from the amount of time he had spent in Viridian Forest, beating the crap out of bug Pokemon and a few Pidgey that had tried to attack him while training, as well as a copious amount of Magikarp with his shoulder. His team was well rested from their time in their Pokeballs, so that wasn't an issue for Naruto, with no reason to head to a Pokemon Center. His problem at the time, which became abundantly clear when he walked through what seemed to be a market portion of town with many tents set up in a bazaar style selling many things, was that he had no money in the form of Kanto's currency. So with no money, Naruto simply left the marketplace altogether and went up to sit on the steps of a very large building that gave him very good shade from the sun. He had kept from dipping into his stash of ramen he had brought from home while in Viridian Forest due to the abundance of goods to eat, but that wasn't always going to be a guaranteed thing. Eventually he'd get caught somewhere without a Pokemon Center or anything to forage for or catch. I'm a survivor, I'll be fine. He thought to himself confidently, but just then, as if to contradict him his stomach let out an audible growl, then again I need a way to make some money. He said, thunking himself in the belly lightly with his fist, as if to admonish himself for letting him know that he was getting hungry. You. Naruto's head snapped up and he started looking around for the person who called his name to turn around and see them standing there. A tall young man with spiky brown hair, hiking boots, green cargo pants, and an orange V-neck shirt with a black t-shirt underneath it seemed to be looking at and talking to him. Naruto couldn't really tell because his eyes seemed to be closed. Naruto pointed to himself as if to ask if he was who the young man was talking to only to get a nod. What are you doing sitting out here at this hour? He asked rather sternly, the museum closed over an hour ago. You need to clear out for security to set up for tonight. Security? That was perfect. It was if Kami herself had just answered Naruto's monetary woes with this bountiful opportunity dropped directly into his lap, and it would be pure blasphemy to refrain from trying to take advantage of it. With a grin on his face, Naruto jumped up and turned to face the young man, is this place hiring? The young man's closed-eye stare was enough to get him to back down a bit before he even spoke, you want to work security for the museum? Why? Naruto fished out his frog wallet and showed him what was inside, I don't know what kind of currency that is. He admitted, finally seeing Naruto's point, oh, so you just want to earn a quick buck. Yeah. Naruto said, tucking his wallet back safely in his pocket, so are you the head guard or something? Or do I talk to someone else about this or what? No, I'm the main guard for the night shift. My name is Brock. He said, introducing himself and scrutinizing Naruto a bit, you know, you don't look like much. What makes you think you could protect this place? But that question, Naruto chuckled and pointed at himself, I've watched over bridge builders, princesses, all kinds of stuff. He said, listing his own past accomplishments, I can definitely watch this place. As for proof, he reached for his own ninja identification, here. Brock took the small laminated card with a raised eyebrow, ninja ID. Naruto definitely didn't look like a ninja, but he did look dead serious about everything he was saying, and from the way his stomach was growling, he must have needed the job if only for one night. He'd have to be a cold bastard to just kick the kid away, can you stay awake until sunup? Naruto nodded furiously in response, then come back at 8 p.m. and I'll give you the rundown of your job. Get a bit of rest. Naruto let out a whoop and ran off to the Pokemon Center to get the Pokemon he had left there to rest and heal, happy to inform them that they'd be getting some good food very soon at the conclusion of their protection detail that night. Shaking his head and sighing at how a gym leader like him could be goaded into lowering his guard for some random kid, Brock walked home to catch a short nap of his own prior to taking the night shift. On the top of the museum as Brock left, a small figure crawled down the side towards the ground. It was a green spider with 6 yellow and black striped legs, 2 large eyes, a small white horn on its head, and black spots on its torso. After crawling down the side of the building, avoiding sight due to the closing time of the museum, it walked through the grass, blending in until it reached a row of trees. It crawled up the trunk of a tree and found a person sitting hidden on a branch, "So you've got the place cased, Spinnerack?" The person, a female, asked as the spider crawled up into her lap. "I went in myself today to get a good feel for the place, but I'm going to have to rely on you to show me some good places to sneak in from." Spinnerack. The little spider, little in comparison to humans, seemed happy to help and had just the places that the girl was looking for. With a giggle, the girl gave the little Pokemon a rub on the thorax that it seemed to enjoy as thanks for its diligent work thus far. "This place isn't going to know what hit it and then it'll be time to get ourselves paid." Hours later, Pewter Museum of Science. Naruto let out a yawn as he walked around the vacant and darkened museum floor with Ranbauen at his side for company. It had been a very boring night thus far, and a yawn of equal boredom from the Growlithe at his side let him know that the feeling was expressly mutual between them. The floor level of the museum had many exhibits detailing Pokemon of legend and from the past, even with some fossils showing the skeletal structure of some strange bipedal, large-headed Pokemon with 2 sickles for claws on its arms called a Kabutops and another nasty-looking flying Pokemon called an Aerodactyl. Those were certainly 2 nasty-looking creatures to run into for sure. While Naruto seemed to be doing more sightseeing than anything else, it was because Ranbauen was on the job and his nose was just as reliable as an Incan. For the last few hours they had been doing the rounds along with the other security guards, and Ranbauen had been getting the scent of the place down to memory. Every nook and cranny, every smell of every contour his nose could reach into. It was funny to watch, but then again Naruto did tell him that he wanted Ranbauen to have the entire scent of the place down. And if nothing else, Ranbauen was obedient and diligent. But Brock, he wasn't a security guard. Unlike everyone else with the exception of Naruto, Brock didn't wear a uniform. So was he freelancing the way Naruto was? The curiosity was killing Naruto, so the next go around when he found Brock he stopped to ask him about it. "Hey Brock, why are you doing this job? You're not a real guard." Brock smirked for a second at being busted out over the whole thing, before his face took on its previous stony facade. "Well, I've got a lot of siblings to support and my real job pays pretty well, but I need a little something extra to keep things going smoothly. Just to keep them all comfortable." He reached into his pocket and pulled out his wallet. "Here, these are my brothers and sisters." Naruto's sweat dropped when he saw pictures of 9 different kids that all looked similar to Brock, but he nodded all the same. "That's nice. Having siblings must be cool. Not when you're the oldest and your parents are gone," Brock said with a sigh. But dumping his problems on Naruto wasn't advisable. He was just a kid. "What about you, Naruto? You aren't from Pewter City, so where are you from and what brings you here?" "I'm not even from this continent," Naruto said, proud of this fact. "I came here to study Pokemon for my village and to train for 3 years before I go home." The whole village sent one kid to study Pokemon for them. They must have had a lot of faith in him to send him overseas by himself to do something so potentially dangerous. "Wow." Brock muttered, "That's pretty heavy. I'll bet your parents are proud of you." "I hope they are," Naruto said with a wistful smile before choosing to end the conversation at that and continue on with his patrol. It took him a few minutes to set the thoughts of his parents and the lack of what he knew about them aside, as those feelings wouldn't help him at all at staying sharp. With this in mind, Naruto ventured from the depths of the museum back to the front desk by the entrance. Behind the desk sat a reasonably sized lab that the workers at the museum used for analyzing the fossils brought in from Mount Moon a few miles away from Pewter City. It was a pretty important place, so doing rounds there was paramount, more so than other places. "Oops, sorry," Naruto suddenly stated once he saw that there was already a guard there coming from behind the counter. There wasn't any need for 2 guards to sweep the same place, and that would leave a hole in security somewhere else. "I didn't think this place would be covered, so I came to do it." The guard just smiled and waved the whole thing off as the 2 separated and continued on their own ways. "Grr, growl." Ranbauen barked, stopping both Naruto and the guard in their tracks. Naruto whipped around to see his Pokemon baring his teeth at the guard as if they were the enemy. Naruto didn't even have to ask the question, instead narrowing his eyes at the fake guard. "Ranbauen says you're a fake. He has the scent of all the guards and yours doesn't match what you look like apparently." The guard, instead of denying anything, just smirked at Naruto and Ranbauen. "Ah. I still need to train that part better, but it doesn't matter. A girl's voice said, coming out of the seemingly male guard's body, "I've got what I came for. Grimer, use poison gas." The disguise of a guard was cast off at Naruto before a cloud of purple gas was fired at him and Ranbound. Upon hearing poison gas and seeing it be sent out at his Pokemon, Naruto grabbed Ranbound and dove clear of the gas to keep his Growlithe in the best of health, not risking getting his dog poisoned. "Ugh," Naruto said, having sacrificed his body on the dive to save Ranbound, "are you alright, buddy?" "Growlithe." Ranbound responded with a nod before getting back up and shaking himself off as Naruto picked him up and started running with him. Growl. Ranbound jerked his head towards a flight of stairs leading to an upstairs level, telling Naruto that this was the way that the intruder went. Naruto stormed his way up the stairs, only to see a shadowy figure standing on the sill of an open window, preparing to dive out. "Hey. Stop. Give back what you took or I'll kick your ass." All that did was get the figure in the window to grin widely at him before jumping out, getting a gasp out of Naruto as he raced over to the window to try and do something. It was a 4-story fall. That would mess even his legs up. But he didn't have to worry about that at all. Zubat. Because the thief was riding, holding on to the 2 skinny long legs of her Pokemon, a blue bat with no eyes or nose, and 4 large visible fangs in its mouth. He could swear that even in the dark of the night he could see the person turn towards him and blow him a kiss, getting Naruto to blush slightly with an angry look on his face. Oh hell no. Naruto wasted no more time in running back downstairs where he found Brock heading upstairs. "Thief, outside, getting away." "What?" Brock asked, but with Naruto running past him, jumping downstairs in a rush he couldn't really make out what Naruto was saying as the boy ran right out the front door, letting out a yell of surprise once he reached the door. What happened? Upon opening the front doors to the museum, Naruto ran directly into a wall of sturdy spider webbing, trapping both him and Ranbound. "I really don't like this thief." "I'm fine, Brock, just stay here, I'll handle this." Ranbound, use Ember. Ranbound shot flaming sparks and burned through the web that just detained them for a few valuable seconds longer. "Can you still smell her?" Ranbound let out a bark of affirmation as Naruto continued to carry him, trying to give chase. "Let's finish this then." Viridian Forest, Pewter City entrance. "Oh man, that was so easy," the thief said to herself, the spinnerack sitting on her head and the minimized Grimer in her pocket as she shifted a sack she was carrying around her waist. "You guys were perfect back there. Now all we have to do is get this stuff to the guy in Viridian City that hired us and we'll be set." She'd be there and paid by sunrise. Until she had to dodge a set of shuriken and a blast of ember from her assailant. Landing safely, avoiding injury to either herself or her Pokemon that she still kept close on her person, she let out a huff at seeing Naruto and Ranbound glaring at her. "You again. Even with your Growlithe tracking my scent you're still really fast to catch me out here. I didn't even get a chance to give my Pokemon a breather." "What did you take from the museum?" Naruto asked again, more forcefully this time. "Cough it up." The moon finally shone through the clouds in the sky, putting some light on the girl Naruto had been chasing. She was his age and had dark hair put up in a spiky ponytail, wore an entire mesh bodysuit, dark purple shin guards, Tabi socks and sandals, dark purple greaves on her hands, a purple sleeveless and short skirt Kunoichi's battle dress with a red sash around her waist, and a red scarf that trailed off behind her neck. "You think you can keep up with someone like me?" the girl said with a smirk. "That's really cute. You should just turn around and go home before you get yourself hurt. The underworld of Kanto is more dangerous than a babyface trainer like you can handle with a puppy at your side." "You're a ninja," Naruto said as a statement instead of a question. He knew what a ninja looked like, but those clothes were very old-fashioned for a shinobi. No one in the elemental nations really wore that stuff anymore unless they were trying to intentionally look like a throwback. "So am I. So don't tell me that I can't handle anything." The girl let out a laugh and pointed at Naruto. "You're a ninja. What's with those clothes? And that color? Are you trying to stand out like a sore thumb or what?" Instead of rising to the insult of his orange, Naruto just grinned at her mischievously. "If you're good," he said before disappearing in a puff of smoke right before her eyes. Much to her amazement, "what you wear doesn't matter." Turning around at the sound of the shout, the girl faced 5 more Narutos coming right at her and jumped away from them suddenly in amazement. He set up such an elaborate illusion in that much time. He had to have. There was no way he got here before me. She thought to herself, impressed at Naruto's little mirror and light trick. Time to break it and find the real one though. "Spinnerack, use poison sting." The spinnerack on her head started firing multiple white needles at the Narutos, hitting them all and forcing them into smoky oblivion, much to her confusion. Growl. Well, the original Naruto that had been standing with Ranbound had been a fake, Ranbound himself had been real, and when Janine jumped and defended herself against his clones, Ranbound knew an opening when he saw one and blasted at her with his ember attack. The ninja girl turned towards Ranbound and covered herself up as she took the shots and wound up knocked onto her back. From her pocket crawled a miniature-sized Pokemon that retook its full size to fight Ranbaun directly. Grimer. The Pokemon cried. Its form was a purple pile of living sludge with eyes and a mouth. Grimer used Mud Slap. Upon being ordered, the walking embodiment of pollution reached underneath itself and threw polluted mud right into Ranbaun's eyes, getting a cry of pain out of the Growlithe as it tried to shake it out of his eyes. What are you going to do without your Pokemon now? The girl said as she got back up from the ground, Spinnerack still on her head. Pick your ass like I said before. Bunshin Kaiten Kakado Itachi, clone spinning heel drop. The girl saw 3 Narutos come out from Ranbaun's flanks to rush right at her, faster than she could backstep away from. Spinnerack, string shot. The spider Pokemon on her head fired webbing from its mouth at one of the Narutos, encasing it entirely. Ha! I got the real one. But the other 2 Narutos were still coming, much to her surprise. How? Gotcha. The 2 other blondes yelled as they slammed down jumping heel kicks on the top of her head and shoulder, hitting the Spinnerack as well. Ranbaun, use Odor Sleuth to find your target and then use Ember. Upon hearing Naruto's voice, Ranbaun calmed down about its lack of good vision due to Mud Slap and started to use its nose, sniffing the air before growling and turning towards the Grimer that seemed more concerned with the fact that its trainer had been attacked directly. Growlithe. Opening his mouth, Ranbaun fired his barrage of angry fire sparks from his mouth, pounding the back of the Grimer's head mercilessly until it fell down unconscious. The girl that was knocked onto her back reached for a third Pokeball, but had it kicked out of her hand by Naruto before she could call her Pokemon out. Ah. Zubit no. She tried to move to grab the ball, but the sack of goods around her waist went loose and spilled all over the ground. Damn it. She dove for the goods but was too slow to get to them all. Page Bunshin no Jutsu, Shadow Clone Jutsu. Naruto formed enough clones to scoop up all of the stuff. Fossils, old shells, other sorts of things of the like. Everything that the girl had taken from the museum and had stashed in that sack now lay in the hands of Naruto's clones that were all grinning at her cheesily. I can't believe this. The ninja girl said as she recalled her Pokemon back to their balls as the 2 of them were knocked out by the coordinated assault from Naruto and Ranbaun. What were those things you made? Those weren't mirror reflections, they move independently and can touch things. I've never seen any ninja technique that really makes copies of the user. He really was a ninja. Or he was something extraordinary at least. Ranbaun was still walking around blind and Naruto ran over to the puppy as he stumbled around trying to shake the crud out of his eyes. It's alright. I've got you. He said, using a bottle of water from his pack to wet a portion of his top to try and scrub out Ranbaun's eyes. Who are you? The girl asked, crawling over to her Zubit's Pokeball, trying to look more hurt than she really was. It seemed to be working because the clone seemed kind of remorseful that she had been injured by both Naruto and Ranbaun. Though she honestly did want to know his name. You didn't see something like what she had seen that night every day. Uzumaki Naruto. One of the clones said before another one spoke up, just so you know the name of the guy that kicked your ass, Dadabeo. Another one finished smugly, shifting the fossils and wetting it in his arms. Why were you stealing this stuff? That's it girl, just keep him talking until you get your last Pokemon back. While she was feigning some of the pain, most of it was still very real. There wasn't much acting required. Oh, I don't know. There's this rich guy with deep pockets in Viridian City. Probably some kind of collector. He wanted fossils and prehistoric Pokemon stuff. It was good money. Hey, I could cut you in if you let me go and let me have the stuff. Even with monetary problems, Naruto wasn't going to resort to ripping off a museum. He'd steal from bad guys if he had to steal from anyone, and nothing was going to compromise his integrity. No thanks. I promised I'd guard the museum and I don't go back on my word. That's my Nindo. Your Nindo, the girl said as she stopped crawling upon reaching her Zubit. Well, I'll remember that for later, Uzumaki Naruto. Sorry, but I'm not really a fan of being caught. She maximized the size of the Pokeball and quickly let her Pokemon out. Zubit used Supersonic. Visible yellow waves of energy came from the Zubit's mouth faster than anyone could see cleanly and brought Naruto and his clones to their knees with a piercing sound that harmed Ranbaun as well. Some of the clones were even forced to dispel from the pain of the move. This opening was what the girl needed to get up and take off into the forest with her last remaining Pokemon to try and escape. You probably can't hear a damn thing right now, but I'll say it anyway. This was fun. From one ninja to another, my name is Janine. Later. Naruto did so happen to hear her, though it was muffled over the remnants of her Zubit Supersonic. The further away she got, the more the sound tapered off, finally going away completely. Man, a ninja in Kanto. He hadn't been expecting that, and I thought I was unique. Naruto then turned around and saw Ranbaun firing random embers, confused from the supersonic. Wondering what was wrong with him, Naruto just had Ranbaun return to his Pokeball as the remainder of his clones gathered up the fossils and wetted it in Janine's sack, dispelling after their job was complete. Naruto scooped up the sack and threw it over his shoulder before beginning to head off back to Pewter City. The night had been very eventful. The pay for actually keeping the stuff safe for a threat had to be great for the headache that it was to chase Janine down to get it all back. The siren cut down on Naruto's insightful thinking time, and Naruto went on the defensive as a bulky and fast vehicle with two wheels that he had never seen came to a sudden stop in front of him, the woman on it getting off and holding up a pair of handcuffs. "Freeze, thief." Naruto looked around for Janine, seeing no one other than himself. "Are you talking to me?" The woman had blue hair and wore a dark blue hat on her head, as well as a dark blue skirt and uniform shirt, of course. "There's no one else here carrying stolen fossils from the Pewter Museum of Science but you. Now just surrender peacefully." Naruto palmed his face with his free hand before going on a tirade. "Are you kidding me? I chase the real thief all over town and out to the woods, and when I finally get the stuff back, I get accused of being the one stealing it. This is harassment. And another thing. Why the hell did it take so long for anyone to get off of their ass and help me? I had to." As Naruto continued his tirade, the lady cop simply ignored him, got on the radio installed in her motorcycle, and called into the police station back in Pewter City with a deadpan look on her face. "Yeah, this is Officer Jenny. The stolen fossils from the Pewter Museum of Science were recovered, but the thief is nowhere in sight. Where's Brock? Didn't he tell anyone I was out here chasing the thief? Me and a growler got out here faster than anybody else, and you've got that fancy writing machine of yours too. Also tell the museum that they need to select calmer security guards in the future." The next day, Pewter City Pokemon Center. "So you're telling me that you're not the Nurse Joy from Saber Island, but you're that Nurse Joy's cousin?" Naruto said disbelievingly, leaning against the front counter where the Joy was standing, diligently answering his random question. "Are you sure you're not the same Nurse Joy just following me, because I seriously can't tell the difference." Naruto looked at his recently healed growler then asked him, "Ranbauen, is this the same lady?" Ranbauen shook his head no immediately. "No one looks that much alike without being twins, unless you know Kage Bunshin no Jutsu," Naruto accused. "I'm afraid I don't know what you're talking about," Nurse Joy said, wondering just how Naruto could be that fired up in the morning without even having any breakfast, "but you can tell that I'm different. You see, I'm a third of an inch shorter than her. It's very easy to distinguish us apart." Still giving her a scrutinizing paranoid glance, Naruto decided to just take her word for it for now. Until he could prove otherwise at least. "Okay. If you say so." He got Ranbauen back into his Pokeball and took both him and Hogahei, after thanking Nurse Joy for helping them. Today was the day when he was going to see what the Pewter Gym was all about, and there wasn't anything in the world that was going to stop him this time around. Stepping outside into the warm air, Naruto stretched himself out thoroughly, preparing to personally lay a major beatdown on the gym leader once he reached his doorstep. No flukes like in Viridian City. There's nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. "You're getting it today, gym leader guy. You're going to try and battle the Pewter gym leader, huh? What a guy." "You bet," Naruto said, turning to grin at the person that had just complimented him, only to find the point of his attention sitting on the awning of the Pokemon Center. "Wait. Didn't I just beat 7 shades of shit out of you last night? Why are you back?" Sitting on the awning of the center waving her legs, Janine rolled her eyes before hopping down to the ground in front of Naruto. "Because I have Pokemon that you beat 7 shades of shit out of last night. And I am a trainer." "You're a thief." "I'm a ninja, same as you, we were just on opposite sides last night," Janine said with a very pleasant smile, "but I want us to be friends." "Don't you want to be friends?" All she got in return was a pronounced frown from Naruto. "Look, because I failed last night I'm out a lot of money. Money I was going to use to get back home easier. So all I'm asking is that you deal with me until we get to my home. You're a traveler, aren't you?" Still, Naruto just stared at her without flinching. "I don't even know why you came back here. You're probably wanted. Another reason to let me go with you." Janine pointed out, clasping her hands together in front of him. "You're the only person that saw me last night, so to everyone else I'm not a thief, I'm just a girl dressed like a ninja. And if I'm not with you, you won't know what I'm doing." She said in a sing-song voice, "I could be stealing anything, but if I'm with you, you can keep me out of trouble until you get me home." The caw of Aspiro was the only thing breaking the silence between the two, with Janine smirking and Naruto giving her a look that showed his brain was working overtime to think his way out of this. "Do you really think you can steal that much and get away with it?" "I can try just to prove a point if that's a challenge." Turning around away from Janine, she held up Naruto's Pokédex and started thumbing through the entries. This thing's pretty empty. You haven't seen many Pokemon, have you?" Naruto checked the inner breast pocket of his top and felt that she had swiped his Pokédex at some point in their most recent meeting. "Give me that," Naruto said, snatching it back and getting a mischievous grin in return. "So you're saying I'm responsible for you? I'm a ninja, you're a ninja." Holding up her hands like a pair of scales, Janine feigned balancing them both out. "And you beat me, so yes, you are responsible for me." Just take me home, hero. That's all I want. I know the way so we can go there through the other towns. On one hand, he had just been in a fight with her not even 12 hours ago, and she had almost gotten away with ripping off many priceless fossils. But on the other hand there was his damn sense of nobility that kept urging him to keep an eye on her so that she didn't steal. Also he just couldn't ignore a pretty girl asking him for a favor. Oh, why the hell not? He'd done bigger favors for people that had done worse things to him in the past. She hadn't even stolen from him. It was from the museum. And he stopped her, so it was all good. Besides, it was getting lonely without anyone human to hang out with either. Fine. Naruto said, allowing her the concession of traveling with him, but you're gonna have to be good. No stealing. Cross my heart. Janine said, making the apropos hand gesture until she gave him an urging look. Really? No stealing at all? Not even a little bit? No. Naruto asserted, crossing his arms over his chest with finality until he had a second to think about it. Well, maybe sometimes. He wouldn't say never. Sometimes stealing was the right thing to do. It was more of a judgment call, we'll see. And Janine could more than live with that. Alright partner, let's go get you a gym badge. A gym badge? Yeah. You get a gym badge when you beat gym leaders in battles. It shows you won. So after breaking his foot off in this guy's ass in his own gym, he'd give Naruto visual proof that he did indeed run him over and leave him out cold. This whole gym thing was sounding better and better by the day. You're lucky that I know a lot about the gyms in Kanto. Janine said as she led Naruto through the streets of Pewter City towards the gym in question. I'm probably the best person you could have with you for this. If you can beat the 8 gyms in this country, you can go to the Indigo Plateau and fight in a huge tournament to prove you're the strongest in the world. The Kunoichi tapped her own head with her finger. I know way too much about this stuff, and until we get to my home, I can tell you what you need to know. Pewter Gym. In a corner of the town, a large building made seemingly from stone comprised the gym that Naruto and Janine opened the very large doors to. If that weren't intimidating to most people, the entire field on the inside of it had rocks, jagged and massive, strewn throughout. Upon entering, the trainers that were a part of the gym stopped and began staring at Naruto and Janine with some hostility. Above the fields along the high walls there were balconies for those that wished to spectate, and those people were also looking at the pair with less than kind intent. Are you sure you want to take a gym challenge this soon? Janine whispered to Naruto as they walked inside. We could always come back some other time. No need to fight if you're not ready. I'm ready. Naruto said to reassure her, punching his fist into his palm. I was going to fight at the gym in Viridian City, but the gym leader isn't there. He then pointed out at all of the people littering the battlefield in different sections while doing their own training. So if anyone here has a problem with me being here to fight the guy, I'll just go through everyone I have to just to prove my point. That isn't going to be necessary, Naruto. The sound of the voice echoing throughout the hall got every person that had been glaring at Naruto previously to turn towards the back end of the gym to someone sitting on a flat rock. Naruto squinted at the person and ran in past all of the trainers until he was able to see who it was. Brock. What are you doing here? I thought you had a day job. This is my day job, Naruto. Brock said, standing up from his seat on his rock and dusting the back of his pants off. I'm the gym leader of the Pewter City gym. Surprise. He then smirked a bit while looking at his diminutive blonde friend. You know, I knew I'd be seeing you here soon enough. Okay then. Naruto said, slapping his face a few times before setting himself into a fighting stance. Get over here and let's go. Who's reffing the fight? Brock raised an eyebrow at Naruto's behavior, as did Janine. What are you doing? Confused at why Brock was confused, Naruto stood up and scratched his head. I was getting ready to fight. Isn't that what we're supposed to do here? I fight you, I kick your ass, you give me a gym badge to prove that I beat you. Right. Janine shook her head. Naruto, you don't fight the gym leader yourself. You use your Pokemon to beat the gym leader's Pokemon in a battle. What kind of stupid way to fight is that? Naruto asked belligerently, not understanding the concept and all. If that's how it goes, I should be able to fight too, right? In the elemental nations and ninja fights beside their summoned animal. If my Pokemon have to fight, I should fight too. That's not how this works, Naruto. Urged Janine, grabbing his arm to pull him back. This isn't really a test of your strength. It's a test of your Pokemons. The way you fought last night, you probably could beat the pants right off of Brock in a fight. Hearing Janine say that put a tick mark on Brock's head that they ignored, and yeah, it would be a no contest, but this is a Pokemon battle situation. Ah, what kind of crazy gym is this? The Pokemon gym for Pokemon trainers. Nobody told me that. It just says gym on the front. Everyone's supposed to know that already. The loud echoing smack went out from Naruto, palming his face hard enough to leave a red print once he moved his hand. You know what? Fine. It's okay, because Ranbauen and Hogahei are strong enough to kick ass even without me fighting. He held out a straight arm fist right at Brock, so I still want to battle Brock. Bring it on. I accept. Brock said plainly, leaving no room for argument from any of the underling trainers in the gym. Clear the floor. He demanded, getting everyone to leave except for himself, Naruto, and Janine. I meant everyone else. He said with a pointed look at Janine. Taking the hint, Janine held her hands up defensively. I can referee the battle. I'm qualified, trust me. She said, getting into a stare-down with the pewter gym leader until he nodded. Brock uses rock Pokemon. It's hard to hurt them unless you have a water Pokemon, and your Growlithe probably won't do so hot against any of them. She said before moving towards the center of the sideline of the field, out of the way of getting involved. What are your terms? Janine asked Brock. This is going to be a series of one-on-one battles with the trainers only able to use 2 Pokemon each. Brock said, explaining the rules. The challenger can switch out between his 2 Pokemon at any time while the battle is in session. Alright. Janine looked towards Naruto to make sure he was ready, getting a nod from the foreign shinobi. Challenger Uzumaki Naruto versus gym leader of Pewter City. Brock. Begin. Brock tossed a Pokeball up and down in one hand before throwing it forward to release his Pokemon in a flash of white light. I'll start with Geodude. From the ball came a gray floating boulder with muscular rock arms and 5-fingered hands. Dude. Geodude. The Pokemon cried upon its release and entry into the battle. Okay then. I'll save Hogahe as a trump card. Naruto said quietly to himself before grabbing his other Pokeball that housed a Pokemon and throwing it forward. Ranbound, you've got this buddy. From his own respective housing orb, Ranbound came out and looked around before locking his eyes on Geodude and growling at him. Your Growlithe. Brock observed as Growlithe howled in response, not the best choice to go against rock Pokemon, but you'll find that out soon enough. Blah, 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 whatever. Ranbound, Ember. Upon Naruto's order, the Growlithe fired off his sparks from his mouth that bounced off of the blocking Geodude's body, not showing much of an effect at all. Okay. I had to try it anyway. I told you so. Brock said before pointing at Ranbound. Tackle. Geodude hurled its entire rocky body at Ranbound, smashing into the fire dog and knocking him to the ground. But Ranbound rolled over and stood back on his feet, growling at the rock Pokemon as it came right at him again. Dig. Ranbound started swiftly burrowing his way underground, dodging the tackle by his fleet actions, but Brock was not about to let him get away so easily. You're at a total disadvantage in a situation like that. Your Pokemon isn't the only one who can dig. Geodude, follow him down. Naruto smirked and stomped his foot hard on the ground several times in a rhythmic pattern, only for Ranbound to pop out of a hole right in front of Naruto. Return. Naruto ordered, recalling Ranbound to his Pokeball. Go Hogahe. Without missing a beat, Naruto switched over to his shelter just in time for Brock's Geodude to pop out of the hole right in front of him. Water gun. Brock cringed at the sheer speed in which Naruto switched his Pokemon. They were never on the field at the same time, but by the time he had thrown his second Pokeball and it touched the ground, Ranbound had been fully recalled. And his Geodude had been suckered right into a trap. The forceful blast of water came right from the middle of Hogahe's open shell, spraying Geodude and bringing it down to the ground, visibly weakened from the move. Brock began to sweat a bit but did not relent in his efforts to win. Geodude, rock throw. The Pokemon punched the ground and sent rocks flying at Hogahe in a form of a distance attack. Hogahe, withdraw. The shelter shut its shell tight as the rocks bounced off of it mostly harmlessly. Now clamp. The shell flew right at Geodude before opening up, preparing to snap shut right on it. Defense curl. Brock ordered, watching his Geodude curl up into a ball as Naruto's shelter landed onto the Pokemon and began squeezing tightly, relentless to the extent that Geodude couldn't uncurl itself. What a tight hold. Dude, the Geodude said, straining under the sheer pressure of Hogahe's shell strength. There was no way that Brock could recall his Geodude as long as it was stuck in Hogahe's clamp as tightly as it was, and Geodude wouldn't last long enough for it to loosen up, leaving him one viable option to get something out of this. Geodude, self-destruct. Self what? Naruto said, with a hint of worry in his voice. Geodude began to glow white while still trapped in Hogahe's pressurized hold, but then a resounding blast erupted from its body, engulfing itself in Naruto's shelter. The smoke cleared to show both Pokemon motionless on the ground as a result of the move. Janine could see the expression on Geodude's face, that Hogahe's shell was on its side with its tongue hanging out, and decided to call it. Both Pokemon are unable to battle. Both challenger Uzumaki Naruto and gym leader Brock have one Pokemon remaining each. Damn it, what kind of attack was that? Naruto exclaimed, worriedly over his shelter's well-being return. This had to end so that he could get Hogahe to a Pokemon Center. With only one possible Pokemon available, Naruto sent Ranbound back out to fight the rest of the battle. One down, one to go. He said to himself as a flash of white light went along with the return of his Growlithe to the battlefield. Growlithe. Brock recalled his defeated Geodude and held up his second Pokeball for all to see before throwing it. If you think it'll be that easy, you obviously don't know what my second Pokemon is. In a pop of white light, an absolutely mammoth sight awaited Naruto upon the Pokemon's release. Say hello to Onyx. Onyx was a large, segmented rock snake that was 30 feet long, towering over and across Ranbound and Naruto, with a large rock spike at the top of its head. Upon seeing Ranbound and knowing that it was about to be in battle, Onyx let out titanic roar. Naruto's jaw dropped as he pulled out his Pokédex to see what he could get on this Pokémon, Onyx. The rock snake Pokémon. It tunnels through the ground which shakes when it raises its thunderous roar. It can move the ground at 50 miles per hour. Oh man, Naruto said as he looked down at Ranbound, this might not end that well. As he held up his Pokeball, Ranbound bit Naruto's hand to keep him from doing so. Ow. Do you really want to fight this thing that bad? Growl. Ranbound, despite it being his master's order and being a part of his rehearsed plan after learning Dig, was not happy with switching out in the middle of the last battle. He was a fighter and wanted to go down doing his best if it were to happen. Alright then. Naruto said, wishing he could step in to fight too. He didn't know how in the world Ranbound was going to take this thing down, but if he wanted to try he wasn't going to stop him from fighting. From Brock's point of view, it certainly wasn't advisable or the wisest course of action to keep Ranbound in, but he wasn't there to give advice, he was there to win battles. And if Naruto was going to serve Ranbound up on a silver platter, there was only one course of action to take. To beat him, Onyx, use Screech. Onyx turned its head towards Ranbound and opened its mouth to let out a horrible grating noise from its throat that produced a wide-reaching light blue cylinder beam of sound that no one in front of it could avoid, either Naruto or Ranbound. Ranbound felt the amplified effect of the noise due to his own acute hearing and grit his teeth while his legs started to shake while Naruto covered his ears and dug his feet into the ground as if he would stumble back if he didn't have a good base. How many different techniques do these Pokémon know how to use? He thought to himself, barely able to hear his own mental speech over the noise. He tried to yell out a way for Ranbound to respond, but he couldn't be heard over Onyx's screech. The sound from Onyx eventually ended as the massive rock snake looked at Ranbound like a predator set to strike at its prey. You aren't going to make a move? Brock asked before giving Onyx another command, bind at Onyx. Onyx rushed forward and began to coil its body around Ranbound until Naruto yelled in alarm, you'd better get out of that move Ranbound. You've been dodging faster things than that since I got you. Not needing to be told anything else, Ranbound jumped up out of what was about to be the equivalent of a python constricting its food and landed on Onyx's rock-comprised body, almost falling off for a second before trying to mimic keeping his balance the way he had seen Naruto do on far more narrow surfaces. What is it doing? Janine whispered to herself, watching Ranbound run up the length of Onyx's body, seemingly headed right for its head. Dead set on reaching the crown of the Onyx, the Pokémon that was the target of this course of action almost let it just happen, out of sheer amazement of the insanity of it all. It probably would have let it happen until Naruto shouted an attack, let's see how it likes an ember to the face. Onyx, shake it off now. Onyx began thrashing about wildly and sent Ranbound flying into the air with one particular bump. When the dog was sent up into the air, it let off the ember it had been preparing out of instinct. Due to his body flailing around though, his aim was extremely off, with blasts of sparks flying all over, missing people in the balcony, even hitting the ceiling. But that was when the battle took a turn. The burning hot sparks repeatedly pounding against the ceiling caused a fire alarm to go off and the sprinklers to start, covering both Ranbound and Onyx in water, causing great harm to them both as they were thoroughly soaked. Onyx recoiled in pain and collapsed from its upright position, while Ranbound fell to the ground, landing on his feet for a second, visibly wincing at the water covering and continuing to cover his body. Still, neither of them were willing to fall and let the battle end for their respective trainer. Onyx pulled itself back up to a lower than previously, but still towering over all position, and faced off with Ranbound again. Dig. Both Naruto and Brock ordered at the same time, as both Onyx and Ranbound swiftly burrowed their way underground, for different reasons however. For Brock, it was because Onyx needed to get out of the spray of the sprinklers that were still shooting down on the rocky battlefield. He's not quitting, and he didn't panic for a second. Brock thought to himself as he looked at the serious and focused look on Naruto's face. It was like night and day from earlier and from the previous evening at the museum. It wasn't a hyper-focus that Brock saw often on many young trainers that only thought that winning was all important and everything else simply had to take a backseat until the battle was over. He couldn't pinpoint exactly what it was, but it was like Naruto had been in situations in the past that made this pale in comparison, and if he could find a way out of those situations, he could keep his cool in this one. On the other hand, Naruto's reason for getting Ranbound to dig was similar in original intent, to get him from underneath the sprinklers, but different in intended outcome. Namely for the singular reason that he could give Ranbound rudimentary commands underneath the surface. 3 very hard stomps from Naruto later and he just stood and waited. Those taps. Brock said, remembering how Naruto stomped his foot the first time Ranbauen used dig against his Geodude. What are those supposed to do? You're telling him to move towards you? That won't matter. Onyx'll follow him out. He then noticed the grin on Naruto's face. What's with that look? I knew Ranbauen wouldn't be the only Pokemon out there that could learn dig, so when we were in Viridian Forest, I put in some other commands with it to make sure he'd have an advantage over others that tried to dig with him. Naruto said, very pleased with his own foresight. I can order him to set up attacks from underground. That tricky little Brock thought to himself as the ground started to rumble. That won't matter, it looks like Onyx caught your Growlithe anyway. Now finish him, Onyx. As if on cue, Onyx burst out of the ground with Ranbauen on his nose, flinging him back into the air with a great roar. But still, Naruto wasn't calling out in alarm, he wasn't even sweating, not that anyone could tell anyway as he was drenched by the sprinkler. Why aren't you worried? Because you just helped me out. I've got a few patterns for him being down there. Naruto said with a huge grin as Ranbauen seemed to be positioning himself in the air. 7 stomps in a row means I'm switching him when he comes back out, but 3 hard ones like I just did means that I want him to use an attack. Ranbauen started falling down towards Onyx, leading with the top of his head like a missile, and crashed into Onyx's head, felling the great rock snake, with the impact of the move added on to Onyx being softened up with water. Brock's jaw dropped when he saw the 30-foot Pokemon fall out with Ranbauen landing on his feet, looking ready to continue if need be. Skull Bash. You had it, use Skull Bash. Onyx's eyes were glassed over as it lay on the ground, and Janine held up one of her arms to conclude the battle. Onyx is unable to battle. The winner is Growlithe, and the winner of the Pewter Gym Challenge is the challenger Uzumaki Naruto. Yeah. Upon hearing his name announced as the winner, Naruto ran out to the field and picked up Ranbauen. I'm never thinking you can't do anything ever again. That was awesome. He then noticed that Ranbauen wasn't responding. A good look and a weak growl of his species name told Naruto that Ranbauen was knocked out as well. Damn it. Are you alright? Ah, you're not alright. Brock recalled his Onyx to its Pokeball with a sigh and looked around at the balconies. Someone can come down and turn off the sprinkler system now. He said as several of the other trainers got moving to do just that. Your Growlithe is extremely tough to outlast Onyx under the sprinklers like that. Naruto held up Ranbaun's Pokeball and gave the poor Growlithe an apology and a big thanks for fighting like that before recalling him as well. Yeah, he is. He'd make a great Ninken back in Konoha, and not just for the fire attacks either. You're just full of surprises, aren't you? Janine said to Naruto as she walked over, just as soaked as everyone else. That kind of specialized training isn't normal, you know. She could use her Pokemon as extensions of her own fighting and physical abilities, but Naruto had modified a particular Pokemon technique. That was entirely different. Heading over to Janine and Naruto, Brock held up a small trinket in his hand. Even if it was by a matter of seconds, you still beat me. You win the Boulder Badge. The badge was a gray octagon with multiple segments to it. With that, Brock placed it into Naruto's hand and gave him a pat on the shoulder. Looking at the small, apparently insignificant object, a little bit of pride swelled up in Naruto for the accomplishment that it represented. A chuckle emitted from his mouth that slowly broke into ecstatic laughter. It was almost as if he had won the battle himself watching his Pokemon do so. The next day, outskirts of Pewter City. So you're really going to follow me until we get to your town? Naruto said, backpack on his back and ready to move along as Janine walked along with him in step. How do you even know I'll go past it? Janine shrugged in response. Are you going to be trying to get more of those gym badges? She asked, getting a nod from Naruto after a moment of thinking on the question. Then you'll definitely be going past my hometown. Besides, I think you need me with you. That little slip up at the Pewter Gym was kind of embarrassing. I'll make sure nothing like that happens again. I'm not from around here. Naruto defended with a grumble. In the elemental nations, a gym or a dojo is for people to train or fight in. The place didn't say Pokemon Gym, it just said gym. That revelation burst his bubble until he actually fought the battle against Brock. Sparing Naruto a glance from the corner of her eye, Janine had to admit she was curious about Naruto's being a ninja for obvious reasons. Well, we move, could you tell me a bit about what this elemental nations place is all about? Because I've never heard of this place. Getting used to hearing such a thing by now, Naruto decided to let it slide. He'd probably be hearing that everywhere he went for the next 3 years, sure. If you tell me about Kanto. Where are we going next anyway? East. To Cerulean City. The Kunoichi for hire said, fishing a map out of seemingly nowhere, much to Naruto's surprise as she didn't have any scrolls on her to summon them from. Yeah, it's a route, and then we can take a shortcut through Mount Moon if you want to. She then noticed Naruto walking all around her, looking up, around, and under to try and find where she had gotten the map from. If you look up my skirt, I'll tie you up, cover you in beedrill honey, and drop you in the woods. Why is it so short then? Naruto muttered, flinching slightly when she glared at him. Okay. Geez, who do you think I am here? I'm not Iro Sennin. Boo. Don't worry about it for right now. Naruto waved the whole matter off, you know you're taking losing to me the other day better than I thought you would. A smile crossed Janine's face before she pulled out a small bit of fossilized amber. Yeah, I got a consolation prize though. She said, sticking out her tongue before Naruto took it from her. Hey, I got that from right under your nose fair and square. It doesn't count towards the no stealing promise, I stole it before I even made the promise. Naruto let out a grunt as he saw that there was nothing but a mosquito inside of the amber. Meh, I guess this isn't that important. It's not like it's a Pokemon fossil. It's just a bug and tree sap. He said, handing it back to Janine and getting a sigh of relief from her. Thank goodness. I'm gonna make so much money off of this once we get to the right person to sell it to. Janine thought to herself. Thankfully Naruto didn't know a damn thing about fossils, or he would have been all goody two-shoes about it and would have taken it right back to the museum, so she said, trying to steer the conversation away from her secret pilfer. Who's Zero Senin? Hope I get you home before you meet him. Naruto said, rolling his shoulder out. He's a total pervert. It's kind of a disgrace. Sometime later. Achoo. Jiraiya sneezed, rubbing his nose as he stood on the deck of the ship before grinning goofily. Heh, those cuties on Saber Island must be telling their other sexy beach friends about their run-in with Jiraiya-sama. Jiraiya-sama, do you think this is far enough from Kanto? We want to get back to continue trading. Nodding in understanding, Jiraiya started going through his hand seals. We're about to find out, gentlemen. Kuchiyas no Jutsu, summoning Jutsu. A puff of smoke enshrouded the deck before the sound of wood smacking off of someone's head rang out. Ow. Damn it, that hurt. Jiraiya-chan, you've been trying to summon us like clockwork. It's been getting in the way of my making dinner. I don't mind that much honestly. What was that? Nothing dear. Hi elders. Amik. Konoha no Kairoi Senku in Kanto 2. Viridian Forest. Cataloging Pokemon, Minato said to himself as he took a rest by a stream in the forest north of Viridian City. Well, it's not a D-rank mission. In order to help himself earn money for his comrades that were also working to get supplies for an attempt at a return trip, Minato was offered a job by Professor Oak to help him study and investigate Pokemon in the world. He would pay Minato periodically for his efforts, and he was free to take other work on the side. After learning of how fast Minato could travel distances, he had Minato leave a Hurration marker right in the middle of his lab so that he could return anytime to debrief. It was an optimal setup for a man that couldn't go too far from his lab for very long due to the responsibility of taking care of all of the Pokemon on his property. Oak would order supplies for the Konoha ninjas stationed in Pallet Town in order for them to restock and prepare for another voyage. Either way, it was a sweet deal for Minato to get him and his comrades home. For some reason he couldn't Hurration the whole ships back to Konoha or himself. He had tried to do so after the storms got particularly nasty and had failed to do so right before they started following that strange bird in the sky to safety. It couldn't have been a distance thing, his jutsu didn't have a range problem as he had already gone back to Pallet Town several times since entering the Viridian Forest. But he'd have to do this the old-fashioned way for the time being until he figured out what was wrong. And relying solely on his signature jutsu was not the way to solve any kind of problem. After all, he had to survive catastrophic situations back before he created Hurration no Jutsu, and he'd survive this one too, with everyone getting home in one piece. I wish I could summon and let Jiraiya-sensei know that we're all still alive. Minato muttered, looking at his palm. For some reason he couldn't summon either. Not that any backup could be sent, but a report would have been nice to send. With a sigh, he absently tossed a kunai into the brush, only to hear it stir a bit. The kuna. A hissing voice uttered. Choosing to investigate, Minato walked over and passed the brush to find a large gold-colored pod with black eyes on it that his kunai had sunken into, another Pokemon. Sorry. He said, pulling the kunai out to find a small hole in it. Damn, you're hurt, aren't you? A white light then began shining from the hole that started widening as a large bipedal beast started pulling itself out. Minato pulled out a field guide that had been given to him by Oak. Oh, wait, you're a Kakuna, and now you're a Beedrill. As he continued to read about the Pokemon, last reading something about its bad temper, a stinger stabbed right through the book, getting Minato to look back up in alarm. Loud and angry buzzing followed as the Beedrill started trying to jab at Minato with its arm stingers quickly, while the Konoha ninja did his best to dodge them. Backing against a tree, Minato contorted his body, narrowly avoiding another stab of needles that stabbed themselves in the trunk. In swift, almost instinctual counter-retaliation, Minato used his damaged book to repeatedly and rapidly slap the Beedrill front-handed and backhanded until it fell backwards unconscious. Putting his book away, Minato pulled out a small notepad and a pen and started writing, causing a small tear in a Kakuna's cocoon, irritates it to the point of evolution into Beedrill. Whether this is premature or not has yet to be determined, nor the effects of such a forced evolution. With that, Minato put his notebook away and looked down at the beedrill with a frown. Well, there is a way I could study that. He pulled out a pokeball and threw it at the beedrill, smiling to himself when he captured it. I'll take care of you for now. I promise. It also didn't hurt that the speed of the thing was impressive and that he dug its color scheme. He tried to leave, but found that in the situation with the one beedrill, many others had gathered around the empty cocoon and were now glaring at him, buzzing angrily. After a quick headcount, Minato realized he had a choice to make, both involving retreating. A fight with all of those beedrill, while he was sure he was fast enough to win, would probably attract more because he was in a forest, and if they were anything like normal bees, who knew how many there really were around. So he could either Hurration his way back to Pallet Town or Viridian City for an instant escape, or he could run and try to logically study what a chase from beedrill entailed, because he had a feeling some other poor sucker would have to deal with something like this in the future. With a sigh, Minato took off into the trees, coaxing them into attacking and chasing him. I really hope somewhere down the line people appreciate that I did this, he said to himself as he dodged a firing of poison stings from the body stingers of the furious poison bee Pokemon, if I live that long. What if Naruto was a lazy Pokemon master? End here, and thanks for watching my video till the end.